the island that holds some of the most important secrets of the One Piece world, an island that was erased from existence and buried from history. In this video, we'll break down the complete God Valley incident from start to finish. This is part 2 of my entire Elbaf explanation series. So without further ado, let's dive in and enjoy some peak One Piece. The chapter begins by going back in time to Harold's past. We see young Harold as a child. He grew up with Dory and Brogy, who are also young. Harold was born as a prince of Elbaf. He came from the bloodline of the ancient giants, which made him much stronger than other giants. Because of his royal blood and incredible strength, Harold became spoiled and arrogant. The story moves to 109 years before the present time. Harold is now grown up and is the king of Elbaf. One day, he travels to a human kingdom in the New World. There, he sees something that makes him very angry. A female giant is being used as an attraction in a circus. Her name is Ida. She is from Samuanai Island in the South Blue. The circus ringmaster calls her the 10-meter woman. Harold thinks the humans are keeping her prisoner and forcing her to perform. Harold gets furious. He cannot stand seeing a giant being treated this way. Without thinking, he destroys the entire town to rescue Ida. After destroying everything, he expects Ida to thank him. He told her there was no need for thanks, stating that he was the king of Elbaf after all and could not let them make fun of his homeland. What happens next shocks Harold completely. Ida walks up to him and slaps him hard across the face. Harold's expression is one of complete shock. His face looks funny from the impact of the slap. Ida is very angry with him. She explained that she had not been held prisoner at all, and that the people of that town had saved her life when she was shipwrecked. She had washed up on their shore, and they had taken care of her. She was working at the circus by her own choice to repay their kindness. Ida scolded Harold harshly, telling him that he thought he was better than everyone else just because he was born bigger. She stated that this kind of arrogance was exactly what gave giants a bad reputation. Ida's words hit Harold deeply. He realizes she is right. He was only born big by chance. That does not make him better than anyone else. Harold is humbled by Ida's lesson. Harold immediately turns around and goes back to help the people of the town. He and his crew work hard to rebuild everything he destroyed. While helping repair the town, Harold learns many new things from the humans. He starts to enjoy spending time with them and learning about their culture. During this time, Harold also learns that Ida was not born in Elbaf. He asks if she crossed the serpent blood to get here. She says yes, she has crossed the red line, which is why she can't go back home. She comes from a different island. Harold realizes he has fallen in love with Ida. He invites her to come back to Elbaf with him. Ida also has feelings for him, and she agrees to go with him. Harold's crew is astonished to see their king in love. Harold brings Ida home to Elbaf. This marks the beginning of big changes for the giant kingdom. Harold starts working to modernize Elbaf. He wants to improve diplomacy between Elbaf and the rest of the world. He begins traveling to different countries and making alliances. He helps maintain trade between nations. Harold announces his plan to journey around the entire world. He wants to atone for his past mistakes by creating connections with other countries. Harold knows that Dory and Brogy are still out there causing trouble in the world, but he believes they will not hurt humans because of their warrior honor. Years pass, and Ida gives birth to a son. They name him Hadruddin. Harold is very happy and wants to marry Ida officially. He wants to make her his queen. However, the elders of Elbaf refuse to allow this marriage. They say Ida cannot become queen because she was not born on Elbaf. Her blood is not considered pure Elbaf blood. Even though Harold is the king, he cannot go against the decision of the elders. Ida accepts this situation. She is not upset about it. She is happy just being able to live near Harold. She agrees to live in a nearby village with Hadruddin. The elders of Elbaf arrange a different marriage for Harold. They choose a woman named Estrid for him. Estrid is from the alcohol village in the northern lands of Elbaf. She comes from a high-ranking family and has pure Elbaf blood. Estrid is described as a very beautiful woman. She dresses in dancer-style clothes. She is obsessed with something called Di Feng, which is like the One Piece version of feng shui. It is a belief system about arranging things to bring good fortune. Estrid believes in omens and signs very strongly. She thinks she is destined to be loved by Harold, requesting that he forget about the girl from the east and the child. Harold responded awkwardly that he could not really do that. Despite Harold's feelings, the marriage goes forward. Estrid gives Harold a special gift, an 8-legged horse named Asla. She calls it the Horse of Fortune and says it will bring good luck. However, the royal guards quietly notice something. They suspect Estrid is not really interested in helping Harold. They think she just wants to live a life of luxury as the queen. Estrid demands that all jewelry be brought to her room. She insists that meals be served on silver platters. She claims this is to help focus their energies. Some time passes, and Estrid becomes pregnant. She gives birth to a son. However, something is wrong. When Estrid sees the baby for the first time, she is horrified. The baby has horns like his father Harold, but he also has strange, intense eyes. His eyes are slit-like, similar to serpent or demon eyes. They look unusual and frightening. This is the first time in the manga that we see what Loki's eyes look like. Estrid is terrified of her own baby. She believes the baby's appearance is a bad omen. She thinks he looks demonic and evil. In her fear and superstition, Estrid makes a terrible decision. She decides to get rid of the baby. Estrid throws the newborn Loki into the underworld. The underworld is the dark place beneath Elbaf, filled with dangerous creatures. She orders her servants to tell everyone that the baby was stillborn, which means born dead. She wants everyone to believe Loki never survived birth. Even the servants are shocked and terrified by her decision. The chapter then shows what happens to baby Loki in the underworld. The scene is dark and terrifying. Baby Loki is surrounded by darkness. Around him are the bodies of fallen beasts. Despite being a newborn in this terrifying underworld, he doesn't die, showing just how incredibly powerful he is. Even adults can't survive this place or such a fall. Loki is wounded and crying, but despite being just a newborn, he has an instinct to survive. He begins crawling through the darkness. He is trying to find his way back up. He is attempting to climb the treasure tree Adam. He knows somehow that the castle is his home. He wants to go back. As the chapter shows these different scenes, a narrator speaks about what happens next. The narration jumps between different moments in time. The narrator states that Queen Estrid began falling into sickness. We see Estrad in the castle, looking ill. She told her servants to remove that child from this world, insisting that it had been foretold even before his birth that King Harold would one day be killed by his own son. A soldier responded to her, expressing disbelief and saying that she was bringing up that nonsense again. The narrator then spoke of Harold being troubled by the wall that existed between countries. We see Harold traveling on the sea, looking frustrated, and he exclaimed that the world government was getting in his way again and wondered why the countries could not act freely. This showed that Harold's efforts to create alliances were being blocked by the world government. The narrator then showed Ida and Hajruddin in their village. Ida was talking to Hajruddin. She asked cheerfully if the baby was his little brother and if it wouldn't be wonderful to meet him. Hajruddin responded angrily that the baby was not his brother and it was not his mother's kid. Ida just smiled and said that everything he said was cute. The narrator made a final statement that ended the chapter, declaring that every disaster that befell Elbaf from those moments onward was now credited as part of Loki's curse. This means that from the moment Loki was born, every bad thing that happened to Elbaf was blamed on him. The story continues with a brief reminder of the Big Mom incident from the past. When Charlotte Lin was a child, she experienced her first hunger pang attack. This happened during the Winter Solstice Festival, which is a celebration marking the death and rebirth of the sun. Young Lin went on a rampage looking for semla, a special food eaten during the fasting period before this festival. This terrible incident caused destruction and death in Elbaf many years ago. The timing is significant because Loki was also born during the winter solstice, a time associated with death and rebirth. After Loki's birth, Elbaf is hit by many terrible disasters. A massive snowstorm sweeps across the giant kingdom, making it impossible for the giants to harvest their crops. The storm is so severe that the giants cannot go fishing or hunting either. This leads to a severe famine throughout Elbaf. Food becomes scarce, and the giants begin to starve. The situation grows more desperate with each passing day. Fires break out in some villages, More storms continue to batter the kingdom. Estrid tells the servants that all of this is caused by Loki, that all the problems of Elbaf are the result of Loki's curse, and that they should have killed him when he told her to. While the servants don't believe this and think it's just a mere coincidence, Estrid continues to protest. Suddenly, Loki arrives at the castle. Despite being thrown into the underworld as a newborn, baby Loki manages to survive and crawl his way back up to the castle. He climbs the massive treasure tree Adam, wounded and crying, determined to return to his mother. When Loki finally reaches the castle, he tries to enter Queen Estrid's room. The baby breaks down the door in his desperation to see his mother. Loki wants nothing more than to be held and loved by Estrid. However, Estrid is filled with complete hatred and fear. She looks at her baby with horror and disgust. She refuses to touch him or hold him. Estrid rejects Loki completely, turning away from her own child. Baby Loki cries desperately as the soldiers arrive and forcibly remove him from Estrid's room. The infant is carried away, still crying for his mother who will never embrace him. As the famine worsens, the internal conflicts in Elbaf become more violent. The giants, desperate and starving, begin to blame each other for their misfortunes. Many of them believe that baby Loki is cursed because of his demonic eyes. They think he is the reason for all the disasters happening to Elbaf. Some giants direct their anger toward Hajrudin and his mother Ida. They blame Hajrudin because he is Loki's half-brother. One desperate giant even tries to kill Hajrudin. When Ida steps in to protect her son, the attacking giants turn on her as well. The situation becomes extremely dangerous as the starving and frightened giants lose control. King Harald returns to Elbaf just in time to save Ida and Hajrudin. He arrives at the critical moment and stops the giants from killing them. He lands a satisfying blow on those losers. Meanwhile, Hajrudin and Ida immediately hug Harald and start crying. They almost got cooked. Harald has been away on his diplomatic missions, traveling around the world and forming alliances with various human kingdoms. Harald announces that his efforts have been successful and that he has secured aid from all the countries he befriended during his travels. Ships begin arriving at Elbaf, loaded with massive amounts of food. The bags of food are so large and numerous that they nearly cover entire ships. The ships bring enough supplies to feed all the giants and end the famine. Harald's diplomatic work saves Elbaf from complete destruction. The aid from the human kingdoms restores hope and stability to the giant kingdom. However, this victory comes with tragedy. Despite Harald's successful return with aid, he arrives too late to save his wife. Queen Estrid dies from illness before the ships arrive. The disease takes her life during a time when Elbaf was suffering the most. Estrid dies without ever showing love to her son Loki, maintaining her hatred and fear of him until the very end. Although Harald is heartbroken and crying, he quickly gathers himself and forces a cheerful expression. He picks up Loki and shows him love, not caring about what Estrid said about the child. He feels only sorrow that such a young kid has already lost his mother. Harald notices the bandages and clothes covering Loki's eyes. These were applied because of Estrid. The bitch claimed Loki had demonic eyes and ordered them to be covered. However, the servants explain that Loki was actually born with an affliction of the eyes. He can still see through them, clearly trying to make excuses for what was done to him. Harald feels deeply sad that Loki has this affliction and is forced to keep his eyes covered. Despite Harald's attempts to cheer him up, Loki shows no emotion on his face. Harald assumes it's because the boy has just lost his mother. But the narrator explains that in just a few months, Loki has already abandoned hope for love. He has given up on love after being thrown into the underworld by his own mother and hated by the very person who should have protected him. Harald also notices that Loki is bruised in multiple places. Meanwhile, the story moves to Ida and Hajrudin. After these tragic events, Ida makes an important decision. She moves to the underworld beneath Elbaf and opens a bar there. The bar is located along the coastline of the underworld, which helps keep the dangerous underworld beasts away from them. This bar becomes significant in the story's present timeline, as it is the same establishment that was shown in Chapter 1076, where Shanks, Ben Beckman, and the other members of the Red Hair Pirates met up. The bar serves as a neutral meeting place in the dangerous underworld of Elbaf. The story jumps to 56 years before the present. King Harald travels to the Reverie, the great assembly where world leaders gather, hoping to gain help and official recognition for Elbaf from the world government. However, the world government completely ignores Harald's requests, rejecting all his attempts at diplomacy. Elbaf is not invited to participate in the Reverie at all, and Harald's efforts to establish formal relations are dismissed outright. The world government wants nothing to do with the giant kingdom, likely because they still view giants as dangerous barbarians. This hostility seems deeply rooted in the past, especially when considering the fate of the legendary Galila Band, a group of ancient giant and non-ancient giant shipbuilders believed to have been captured by the world government long ago. These giants are widely theorized to be the frozen corpses found on Punk Hazard. Their disappearance hints at an ancient conflict between Elbaf and the world government, possibly tied to the Void Century and even the massive straw hat kept by Emu, suggesting that Harald is up against an enemy far older and more dangerous than he initially realized. While Harald is busy trying to rebuild Elbaf and maintain diplomatic relations, someone else takes charge of raising young Loki. Estrid's brother becomes Loki's caretaker after her death. However, this loser does not treat Loki with any kindness. He blames Loki for Estrid's death and abuses and mistreats the young prince. Loki grows up without love or proper care. He is fed rotten scraps and leftovers, and every tragedy is blamed on him, just as Estrid once did. Meanwhile, Harald is too focused on his diplomatic missions and rebuilding the kingdom to notice what is happening to his son. No one tells Harald about Loki's suffering, but this silence only harms Loki further. 8 years pass, and Elbaf becomes prosperous under Harald's diplomatic rule. The kingdom recovers from the disasters and famine. Trade and alliances with other nations bring wealth and stability to the giant kingdom. Harald's hard work appears to be paying off. However, this prosperity is built on a foundation of tragedy and neglect. While the kingdom thrives, Loki suffers in isolation and rejection. Young Loki takes drastic action. While Harald is away from the kingdom, Loki begins clinging to the old, brutal traditions of Elbaf. He believes the land should belong only to warriors, and that the weak do not deserve to live there. Whenever Harald leaves Elbaf, Loki releases terrifying beasts from the underworld into the villages. These creatures rampage through the settlements. Villagers barricade their homes, bolt their doors, and desperately hide their children, specifically to protect them from Loki. During one such incident, Loki confronts Hadrudin. The two openly despise each other. Loki mocks Hadrudin as a bastard child, insisting he is not a legitimate son of the king and repeatedly emphasizing that only he is the true prince of Elbaf. Hadrudin tries to stop Loki, begging him not to destroy the peaceful world their father has worked so hard to build. Hadrudin believes in Harald's dream of a gentler Elbaf, where giants do not live only as warriors. Loki completely rejects this vision. He snaps back that Harald is not Hadrudin's father, he is Loki's father, and ridicules Harald for trying to befriend tiny humans, something Loki finds pathetic and disgraceful. Hadrudin argues that strength and size do not make someone special, and that Loki must learn to see everyone at the same eye level. This enrages Loki. He charges at Hadrudin with his weapon, overwhelming him with sheer strength. Hadrudin stands no chance. Loki declares that he is special because he is the prince and orders Hadrudin never to talk back to him again, mocking him as shrimp. However, something happens during this rampage that deeply affects Loki. He watches as the Hadrudin's friend, Gerd and Goldberg, rush to help Hadrudin. They come to his defense and support him against Loki. Even though Loki is supposed to be superior and more deserving of respect, everyone sides with Hadrudin instead. Loki realizes the painful truth in this moment. He is completely alone in Elbaf. Nobody loves him. Nobody supports him. Nobody wants him around. All of his attempts to feel important and valued have failed. The very actions he took to try to fill the void of love in his life have only made people hate him more. One scene shows a mother glancing at Loki with pure hatred after he injures her child. This look of hatred from the mother reminds Loki of his own mother, Estrid's hatred for him. The rejection cuts deep into Loki's heart. Unable to bear the pain and isolation anymore, Loki makes a desperate decision. He climbs to Heaven Realm, which is the highest peak in all of Elbaf. From this enormous height, Loki throws himself off the edge, just as Kaido would one day leap from a sky island. The fall is catastrophic, something no one should survive. However, even this does not kill him. Loki's body is incredibly strong, even stronger than he realizes. Despite the enormous fall and his injuries, he survives. Loki lies in the underworld, crying alone in the darkness. He feels worthless and broken. He cannot even succeed at taking his own life. As Loki cries alone in the underworld, something extraordinary happens. A nearby mountain is suddenly sliced clean in half. The cut is perfect, as if done by an invisible blade. This impossible feat shows that someone incredibly powerful has arrived. The Rock's pirates appear in the underworld of Elbaf. The group consists of 4 people at this time. They are the core members of what will later become one of the most dangerous pirate crews in history. The first member shown is a younger Edward Newgate, who will later be known as Whitebeard. He looks at Loki's enormous size with amazement and surprise. Despite being just a child, Loki is already massive. The second member is Shiki, who comments that Loki looks like a demon because of his unusual eyes. However, Whitebeard shows unexpected kindness. He approaches Loki and asks him why he is crying. The third member shown is Stussy, who is also part of this early crew. She observes the situation carefully. The fourth and most important member is the captain himself, Rox D. Zebek, future captain of the Rock's pirates, and the father of the future Emperor Blackbeard. This is the first time his face is shown fully and clearly in the manga. Rox has sharp features and intense eyes that look very similar to Blackbeard's eyes. Rox is a large man, similar in build to Blackbeard but somewhat thinner. Upon seeing the size of the crying child, Rox immediately understands where they are. He realizes they must be in Elbaf because only giant children could be this large. Rox approaches Loki and asks him 2 important questions, stating that he is seeking specific answers and needs him to say yes to both questions. Rox asks his first question, whether this place is the nation of giants called Elbaf. Rox asks his second question, whether Harold is currently present on the island or not. This question suggests that Rox is looking for King Harold specifically. Loki answers yes to the first question, confirming that this is Elbaf. However, he tells Rox that Harold is not on the island at the moment, as the king is away on one of his diplomatic missions to other countries. After learning that Harold is not present, Rox asks Loki what his name is. Once Loki introduces himself, Rox comes up with a plan. He tells Loki that he needs to go home and have someone contact Harold immediately. Loki should tell them that he has been badly hurt and that his father needs to return home at once. However, Loki refuses this request. He rages at Rox and says, why should Loki follow orders of puny humans? Plus, it's not like his father would care about his injuries and would come back just for him. Frustrated by the answer, Rox takes out his sword. The narrator provides important information about Rox's fighting style. Rox is a unique and exceptional swordsman. His sword technique is unusual because when he strikes with his blade, the impact causes the surrounding area to explode. The destruction looks as if the surroundings were hit by a massive hammer or a cannonball rather than a sword. This explosive power makes his swordsmanship extremely dangerous and devastating. Taking out the sword, Rox strikes Loki with a powerful blow that sends the young prince crashing down. Rox stands over the injured Loki and laughs, declaring that there it is. Loki is finally hurt. The narrator then reveals that this madman has crossed paths with Harold before. The chapter then shifts to a major flashback set 56 years before the present timeline. This takes place 8 years before Rox arrived at Elbaf to meet Loki. The setting is Mary Jawaz during a reverie, the grand assembly where world leaders gather. Soldiers at Pangaea Castle are in a panic. They report that 5 kings who are attending the reverie have been kidnapped by a mysterious man dressed in black. The kidnapper managed to abduct 5 monarchs from the heavily guarded Holy Land. This creates chaos throughout Mary Jawaz as guards and officials scramble to find the missing kings. The scene moves to the Room of Flowers, the most secret and sacred chamber in all of Mary Jawaz, where Imu, the true ruler of the world, resides. Rox D. Zebek has made it all the way to this forbidden place. This dude has kidnapped 5 kings and made it all the way in the flower room in front of Imu without any injuries. Inside the room of flowers, Emu sits in the chamber. Next to Emu is a woman wearing a mask over her mouth and dressed in clothing similar to that of a nun, who appears to be Saint Manmeyer Gunko, serving as a personal attendant to Emu. Rox D. Zebek is sitting down near Emu, with a gun in the hand with no fear whatsoever, speaking directly to the mysterious ruler. Emu states that the lives of mere kings and sovereigns cannot be used as leverage against someone referred to as Mu, and that the kidnapped rulers mean nothing to Emu, with their lives considered trivial and worthless in the grand scheme of things. Rox acknowledges that he expected this response, admitting that he thought Emu would not care about the kings. Nevertheless, Rox declares that he has successfully turned the Holy Land into a complete mess, having created chaos and panic throughout Marie-Joise, and that accomplishment satisfies him. Rox also makes a peculiar statement about himself, declaring that he is a worshipper of Davy Jones, the legendary pirate figure from folklore. This statement about Davy Jones is significant because it reveals Rox's admiration for pirate legends and his connection to pirate traditions. He didn't do anything to Emu at the time because he knew he couldn't. But before leaving the Room of Flowers, Rox makes a bold declaration, promising Emu that he will return to this very room one day and vowing that when he comes back, things will be different. After leaving the Room of Flowers, Rox makes his escape from Marie-Joise. At the same time, King Harold is also trying to escape their Holy Land, having snuck into the Reverie without proper authorization, hoping to plead Elbaf's case to the world government. However, when Rox caused his massive incident by kidnapping the kings, Harold was blamed for the chaos. The world government accused Harold of being responsible for Rox's actions. Guards and soldiers begin pursuing the giant king through the Holy Land, believing he was involved in the kidnapping plot. Harold is furious because Rox's actions have made him a target and ruined his diplomatic efforts. As both Rox and Harold flee through Marie-Joise, they encounter each other in the streets. Harold recognizes that this man is the one who caused all the trouble. He is angry that Rox made him take the fall for crimes he did not commit, and he attacks Rox out of anger and frustration. Rox, on his part, needs to get past Harold to complete his escape and cannot afford to be delayed or captured. So the two powerful warriors clash with their weapons. What happens next is extraordinary. Both Rox and King Harold unleash their conqueror's haki during their clash. Lightning crackles through the air as their blades meet. The sound of thunder, described as bari bari, fills the area. Their weapons do not even touch each other because the force of their haki keeps them separated. The clash between these two titans is so powerful that it affects everything around them. The narrator describes what happens next using the term keishisata, which literally means erased, wiped out, or evaporated. This clash of conquerors' haki completely eradicates every person within a 5-kilometer radius. Soldiers and celestial dragons who were in the area simply vanish, completely erased from existence by the sheer force of the haki clash. With no bodies left behind, the area around Rox and Harold becomes completely empty, with nothing but air where there were once countless people. The power of this clash is so intense that it even extinguishes the flames on Harold's body. This moment is presented as possibly the strongest clash ever shown in One Piece. After their initial clash, Rox and Harold both realize they are dealing with someone extraordinarily powerful. They introduce themselves to each other properly, with Rox telling Harold his name, and Harold doing the same in return. Despite being enemies in this moment, Rox gives Harold some advice, warning the Giant King that if he aims his next attack at the town, he should be careful. He advises that if Harold is captured by the world government, he will be enslaved, as the world government will not show mercy to someone they believe caused such chaos at the Reverie. This warning creates an unexpected alliance between the two warriors. Both Rox and Harold realize they need to escape Mary rather than continuing to fight each other. They decide to work together temporarily to flee Marie-Joise. The two powerful fighters help one another escape. Harold asks Rox for the direction to Elbaf, and Rox points him toward the New World. He says that if they both survive, they will meet again. Harold refuses, though he admits he would have liked to be friends. He declares that he will never consort with villains like Rox. With that, Harold suddenly jumps off the red line. This dude literally just jumped off red line. Even Rox is left in shock. After escaping Marie-Joise, Rox receives a massive bounty from the world government for killing a Marine admiral during his escape. The chapter reveals that Rox defeated and killed one of the highest-ranking officers in the Navy during his assault on the Reverie. The defeat of an admiral demonstrates Rox's incredible strength, establishing Rox as one of the most dangerous men alive at this point in history. After receiving his bounty, Rox continues his rampage against the world government. He attacks a ship that is carrying the heavenly tribute to Mary Joaz. The heavenly tribute is the money and treasure that countries pay to the celestial dragons and the world government. Rox successfully pillages this ship, stealing all the treasure meant for the celestial dragons. But he does not stop there. During this attack, Rox also destroys one of the Gates of Justice, enormous, heavily fortified structures that control access to important locations in the world. They were said to be unbreakable, even Whitebeard couldn't even scratch them while he was at Marineford. The fact that Rox can destroy such a massive and important structure shows his power and his determination to strike at the world government. The chapter then shows how Rox built his crew. As someone who worshipped Davy Jones, Rox participated in many Davy backfights, same fights as Luffy and Foxy once did, which I am sure many of you have skipped. These are special pirate competitions where crews compete in games and challenges, and the winning crew can take crew members from the losing crew. The chapter shows several scenes of Rox participating in these competitions, including a boxing match, which is one of the combat events in a Davy backfight, and references the final combat game between Luffy and Foxy. Through these competitions, Rox recruited powerful pirates to join his crew. Rox was very strategic in how he built his crew, making sure to recruit pirates who were not only powerful, but also knowledgeable in various illegal and underground activities, wanting a well-rounded crew that could handle any situation. This method of recruitment through Davy backfights explains why his crew became so powerful, as Rox only took the best fighters from other crews, gradually building an unstoppable force. The story returns to the main timeline, 48 years before the present day. Rox and his crew have arrived at Elbaf. At this point, his crew has grown significantly since the small group that first encountered Loki in the underworld. When Rox and his crew arrive in Elbaf, they find young Loki. The boy is shocked to discover that his father Harold actually did return to Elbaf for him. Despite Loki's belief that his father did not care, though he thinks that this can't be true, it has to be a coincidence. But in truth, Harold came back when he learned his son was injured. He tells Loki that he is a strong child, but he shouldn't linger in their dangerous underworld. Harold meets with Rox and his crew. Inside the castle, Rox keeps trying to recruit King Harold. He wants the Giant King to join him. Rox is clearly impressed by Harold's strength, especially after seeing it during their clash at Mary Joaz. To Rox, Harold isn't just a king, he's a living weapon. He truly believes that if they fought together, no one in the world could stop them. Rox tells Harold that the world government will never accept him. They already rejected Elbaf, ignored his peaceful attempts at diplomacy. According to Rox, the world government is the real enemy. If Harold joins him, they could destroy Mary Joaz, crush the world government, and rule the entire world side by side. But Harold refuses every offer. He explains that he is a king first. His responsibility is to his people. He wants Elbaf to move away from endless war and violence and become a peaceful nation. Rox laughs at this and says it doesn't matter. If they rule the world, Harold could have everything anyway. Even so, Harold does not change his mind. He will not join Rox. Rox mocks Harold's beliefs and says that the desire to fight is still in his blood, whether he admits it or not. Harold then turns to Rox's crew and warns them not to follow someone like Rox. The crew responds honestly. They say they are not following Rox because they believe in him. They are together for their own goals. Being united helps them survive and achieve what they want. This way of thinking is similar to how Blackbeard operates in the future, when he invites Aokiji to join him, and unlike Harold, Aokiji accepts. The crew then talks about their next target, an island known as Pirate Island, also called Hachinosu. Governments send their worst criminals there, people they cannot control or punish. The island was meant to be a place where prisoners would slowly die, but instead, they survived and built a settlement. Later, a massive gold deposit was discovered beneath the island. Once the criminal underworld learned about it, People rushed there to mine it, and the prisoners became incredibly rich. Pirates, smugglers, thieves, and every kind of outlaw rushed in to mine the gold. The former prisoners became insanely rich, and the island turned into a lawless fortress packed with dangerous people. Anyone who got close was immediately robbed or killed. The world government panicked. At one point, they even considered hiring Rox to deal with the problem. The idea was to pay him to wipe out the pirates and restore order. Rox finds this hilarious. He laughs and says, "Take all the gold and split the reward." Then he drops the real answer. He has no intention of giving the island back, no intention of returning the gold, and definitely no intention of handing over the prisoners. Rox declares that Pirate Island will be his now. He plans to turn Hachinosu into a full-blown pirate paradise, a place where the world government has zero control. He even jokes about how furious the Navy and the Celestial Dragons are going to be when they find out. Those fools will be outsmarted. And then he makes it clear this isn't just about money or end of his goals. This is just the starting point. With Pirate Island as his base, Rox says he'll tear the Navy apart, drag the Holy Land down to the ground, and eventually rule the entire world himself. Nearby, young Loki has been listening to everything in secret. As he hears Rox talk about breaking the world and ruling it, something changes inside him. The narrator explains that in this moment, Loki feels saved. For the first time in his life, Loki hears someone speak about dreams bigger than Elbaf. Someone who refuses to accept the world as it is and wants to change everything. Rox's confidence and ambition fill the emptiness in Loki's heart. The boy who was hated and rejected finally finds something to believe in. In that moment, Rox becomes Loki's idol, just like how Luffy will once look up to Shanks. Harold shuts down Rox's dream again. He says he doesn't care about ruling the world. He is the king of Elbaf, and protecting his people is all that matters to him. Rox continues to push his vision of conquest. Quietly, without realizing it, Loki whispers a single word. World. The narrator explains that from this moment on, Loki's way of seeing life completely changes. The story then jumps forward in time. 4 years later, after Harold ignores Rox again and again, Rox finally acts. A terrifying group gathers under his banner. Ships arrive at Hachinosu, Pirate Island. For the first time, the flag of the Rox Pirates is raised. This marks the true beginning of the Rox Pirates, as a crew with their own base. The story shifts to introducing a special pirate crew from 4 decades ago. During this era, the Kuja pirates were considered the idols of the sea. The Kuja pirates came from Amazon Lily, the woman-dominated island in the Calm Belt. Their crew was composed entirely of women warriors who were not only incredibly strong, but also stunningly beautiful. This combination of strength and beauty made them unlike any other pirate crew in the world. Male civilians and even Marine soldiers had extreme difficulty dealing with the Kuja pirates. The men were so captivated by the beauty of these women warriors that they could not fight effectively against them. This gave the Kuja pirates a significant advantage in every encounter. Total simps. This is literally how you win wars, boys. You don't need strategy, numbers, or ancient weapons. You just throw a woman into the middle of the chaos, step back, and let everything sort itself out. At this time in history, the captain of the Kuja pirates was Gloriosa. She was the Empress of Amazon Lily and commanded great respect and admiration. Her own crew adored her, and people across the seas knew her reputation. Gloriosa was beautiful, powerful, and charismatic, making her a natural leader. However, there was one person on her crew who outshone even Gloriosa herself. That person was Shakuyaku, and we know about her it's Shaki, who in present works in a bar in the Sabodaya Island. She is the wife of Rayleigh. She served as the first mate of the Kuja pirates. Shaki's beauty was so extraordinary that it surpassed even the already stunning Gloriosa. Men who saw Shaki were completely mesmerized by her appearance. The narrator explains that all of the empresses of Amazon Lily have names derived from flowers. Gloriosa is named after the Gloriosa flower, also known as the fire lily. Shakuyaku is named after the Shakuyaku flower, which is the peony. This naming tradition connects all the rulers of Amazon Lily to the natural beauty of flowers. One day at sea, the Roger pirates encounter the Kuja pirates. At first, it seems like a normal meeting between two pirate crews. Roger is actually there on a mission. He wants the Kuja pirates to hand over Shaki. Roger openly says he wants her on his crew. This moment makes it clear that the Pirate King people compared to Luffy was not exactly like Luffy at all. Roger is completely distracted. In fact, he's acting like a total simp. Gloriosa immediately reacts. She tells Roger that he already has her affection, asking why he even needs Shaki. It becomes clear that Gloriosa is deeply in love with Roger. Before he can say anything else, Shaki hits Roger on the head, leaving the future Pirate King with a large bump. He's already defeated. Shaki makes her stance clear. She says she will not belong to anyone. She refuses to join any crew and refuses to be owned by anyone. Somehow, this only makes everyone fall for her even more. Roger, the Pirate King, stands absolutely no chance here. It's probably a good thing Luffy doesn't know about this side of Roger, because Luffy is nothing like him in this situation. Gloriosa tries once more. She tells Roger that he doesn't need Shaki because he already has her love and affection. Roger doesn't even look at her. He simply tells Gloriosa to move aside because she's blocking his view of Shaki. It's funny, but also genuinely sad. Among the Roger pirates, only one man remains calm. Silver's Rayleigh. Shaki notices this and says she can understand him. Rayleigh replies that he's surrounded by idiots. But then something unexpected happens. Shaki looks at Rayleigh and winks. Rayleigh is instantly shaken. His calm composure breaks, and his shocked reaction is hilarious. For the first time, even Rayleigh is affected. This moment marks the beginning of their connection. Suddenly, everything changes. A Navy ship appears nearby. The Kuja pirates are warned that they must leave immediately. Gloriosa orders her crew to steal everything from Roger's ship, even the bread. Roger desperately begs them to at least leave some food behind. At the same time, Roger orders his crew to run from the Navy. But the moment he realizes who is approaching, he immediately changes his tone. The man coming is Monkey D. Garp. Roger tells his crew to stop running and prepare to fight. We see Garp in his youth, standing proudly with a cannonball in his hand off course, his signature and only weapon if he uses one. Both Roger and Garp are ready. When they clash, their conqueror's haki explodes into the air. The atmosphere itself trembles as the two legends charge at each other. Roger wielded his sword, preparing to unleash one of his most powerful techniques. Garp relied on his fists, using his incredible physical strength to match Roger's swordsmanship. Garp launched his attack first, using a technique called Meteor Fist, a powerful strike aimed at Roger's ship, threatening to destroy it completely. The attack carried Garp's overwhelming haki and physical might, showing just how strong this vice admiral is who doesn't even use a weapon. Roger countered with his own named technique called ultimatum, which translates to savage soul. This technique is derived from Shinto beliefs about the four aspects of the soul, with the ultimatum representing the rough, wild, and destructive aspect of the spirit. When these two attacks collided, an enormous wave of Conqueror's haki erupted from both fighters. This battle showcased why Roger and Garp were considered the most powerful fighters of their generation. The clash between Roger and Garp demonstrates that these two men could make each other lose their sense of reason. When they met, nothing else mattered except their rivalry and mutual respect. Despite Roger's constant dismissal of her feelings, Gloriosa's love for him remained strong and unwavering. She continued to adore him, even though he never returned her affection. This unrequited love became a source of great pain for Gloriosa. Eventually, Gloriosa developed what is known as love sickness, a specific condition that affects the women of Amazon Lily when they fall deeply in love. Same as how in future Boa Hancock falls deeply in love with Luffy. The only cure for love sickness is for the woman to be with the person she loves. But that was impossible for Gloriosa since Roger did not love her back. She could no longer effectively serve as the captain of the Kuja pirates and the Empress of Amazon Lily while suffering from this condition. Gloriosa stepped down from her position as captain, passing the leadership to Shakuyaku. This transition of power made Shaki the new captain of the Kuja pirates and the new Empress of Amazon Lily. Shaki's promotion only increased her already immense popularity. She became even more famous and admired across the seas. However, this also meant that Shaki would eventually face her own lovesickness when she fell in love with Rayleigh. While these events were happening across the seas, young Loki was still in Elbaf. He was filled with determination and a burning desire to leave the island. Loki repeatedly tried to set sail and escape to the ocean so he could join the Rock's pirates. However, Loki's attempts to leave Elbaf kept ending in failure. One particularly serious incident occurred when Loki tried to sail away but nearly drowned in the process. The people who witnessed Loki drowning faced a terrible moral dilemma. They knew Loki was in danger and that they should help him. However, Loki had developed such a terrible reputation on Elbaf that many people were unsure if they should save him. This cruel hesitation shows how deeply Loki was hated and feared by his own people. These incidents where Loki nearly died always brought King Harald back to Elbaf. Harald rushed back each time to check on Loki and make sure he was safe. Unlike the other giants who only saw Loki as cursed and dangerous, Ida recognized a suffering child who needed love and acceptance. This compassion led Ida to make Loki an offer. Ida approached young Loki with a genuine invitation. She offered to let him come live with her and Hadrudin in their village. This would give Loki a real home and a family that cared about him. It was an act of incredible kindness. However, Loki and Hadrudin screams and rejects this outright, with Loki disrespecting her, calling her a hag and a gold digger. Despite all of this, Ida is unaverred and called both of her sons sweet. Hearing Loki's disrespectful words, a young child, Matto, starts crying and states that she hates Loki. He disrespects Ida even when she is kind to her. Loki witnesses this and says that he is sick of Elbaf. Everyone has become weak, wimp, and trash. He says he has a different goal for his future. His ambition was to become free just like Rox and join Rox D. Zebek at sea. Rox had become Loki's idol and the person he most wanted to follow. Living a quiet life in a village, even a loving one, could not compare to the dream of adventure and conquest that Rox represented. Loki planned to join the Rox pirates the next time they visited Elbaf. The scene shifts to Hachinosu, also known as Pirate Island or Full Elite Island. This dangerous location had become a heaven for criminals and outlaws. A mysterious warrior arrived on Hachinosu during this time. This man attacked random pirates on the island, defeating them easily and making a name for himself. His name was Kyo the Yakuza, also known as Silver Axe, a powerful fighter dressed in traditional Japanese criminal style. Kyo was enormous in size, with a large tattoo covering his chest. At this point in time, Kyo was not yet a member of the Rox Pirates. Inside the skull of Hachinosu, all the members of the Rox Pirates gathered together. Rox D. Zebek stands before them and reveals the next stage of his plan. He openly declares his true goal, to destroy the Holy Land of Marijuas and bring down the world government. According to Rox, Elbaf is the key to making that happen. Without the power of the giant kingdom, he believes his dream of ruling the world cannot be achieved. First, he needs 2 legendary devil fruits. One of them is said to exist on Elbaf. Rox wants King Harald himself to eat that fruit, believing that Harald's already overwhelming strength would reach its true peak and turn him into an unstoppable force. Second, Rox talks about the Galela Band, the legendary giant shipbuilders made up of ancient giants and regular giants. These giants possess special knowledge and skills and were captured by the world government long ago. Lin Lin speaks up and says that her information network has searched everywhere but found no trace of them. She believes they may already be dead. These giants were later shown frozen on Punk Hazard, making it clear how important they truly are to the story. Whitebeard responds bluntly. He says that even if such giants ever existed, they are probably already dead. And even if Rox somehow brought them back to life, why would they ever listen to him? Rox answers immediately. That is exactly why he needs Harald. Kaido then speaks up. He questions why Harald's cooperation matters so much. If Harald's power is needed that badly, Kaido suggests they should simply crush him and force him to obey. The moment Kaido says this, Rox completely snaps. He kicks Kaido straight in the face, shocking everyone present. Rox shouts that Kaido should never say such things about Harald again. Harald is his friend. Kaido, who has only just arrived on the island, is furious. A fight nearly breaks out immediately. Rox warns Kaido that if he ever disrespects Harold like that again, Rox himself will be the one to finish him. This moment makes one thing very clear. Harold is not just another pawn in Rox's plan. Rox genuinely values him. And it also shows how important the Galela Band and Elbaf truly are to his mission. Elbaf's king is the core of everything. Rox then challenges his crew. He tells them that Elbaf is essential to destroying the Holy Land. If anyone doubts him, they are free to leave right now. But if they stay, they must be ready to follow him when the time comes. Rox promises that he will show them what lies at the very top of the world. The chapter never clearly names the two devil fruits Rox is searching for. One is located on Elbaf and meant for Harold. The second remains a mystery. Some believe it could be the legendary fruit tied to freedom that Luffy now possesses. Others speculate it could be the darkness fruit. And considering Loki is the future king of Elbaf, this makes one thing very interesting for the future. If Luffy ever wants to challenge the world itself, the power of Elbaf and Loki may be something he cannot afford to ignore. The story highlights just how dangerous the Rox pirates have become. Even though they have only been together for about 2 years, they are already considered the most feared pirate crew in the world. The story then shows the Rox pirates attacking the International Charity Federation temple in a place called the Foot Colony. On the surface, the temple is run by monks who claim to collect donations to help children around the world. But this charity is a complete scam. Charlotte Lin exposes the truth. The monks keep all the money for themselves and live in luxury while pretending to be holy men. Even the name Foot Colony is a joke, meaning the money goes straight into their own pockets. The Rox pirates show no mercy during the raid. Ochoku coordinates the attack. Ganzui and Barbel haul away bags full of treasure. Don Marlin shoots down the temple guards. Lin, Buckingham Stussy runs through the halls collecting valuables. During the chaos, Kaido, Whitebeard, and Kyo end up trapped inside a deep pit beneath the temple. While they are stuck down there, they call out to Shiki for help, since he has the ability to fly. Instead of helping them, Shiki betrays them. He throws bombs into the pit and tries to seal it off, attempting to bury them alive. This loser will try these things multiple times in the story, suggesting that Shiki's effort will destroy Rox pirates if these keeps on going. At the same time, the monks running the fake charity realize that the pirates have uncovered their scam. They slam the temple gates shut, trapping Lin and Stussy inside. However, this is not a serious problem for the Rox pirates. Whitebeard becomes furious. To escape the pit, he unleashes the full power of the Gura Gura no Mi and literally destroys the entire island. Massive earthquakes rip through the ground, and the island begins collapsing into the sea. Big Mom becomes furious at Whitebeard. She becomes furious whenever Whitebeard uses his abilities. She says it affects everybody around him. Kaido watches this in awe and jealousy. He comments on how incredible Whitebeard's devil fruit power is, showing that he clearly wants a powerful devil fruit himself, even though he will later claim that the true era belongs to Haki users. Whitebeard responds by warning Kaido that choosing a devil fruit is not something to take lightly, because once you eat one, you are stuck with that ability for the rest of your life. Meanwhile, Kyo also climbs out of the pit and angrily demands to know who tried to bury him alive. Ochoku, who clearly saw what happened, silently points toward Shiki. Kyo immediately tries to attack him, but Shiki escapes using his devil fruit ability. The narrator then makes something very clear. Despite being the strongest pirate crew in the world, the Rox pirates, mostly Shiki, constantly betray one another. The rest of the crew is angry at Shiki, but not shocked. This kind of betrayal is normal for them. As the island sinks beneath the ocean, the raid is completely erased. Navy ships appear on the horizon. The Marines have somehow discovered their location and arrived to capture them. The timing is extremely suspicious, and Whitebeard immediately questions how the Navy managed to find them so quickly. Rox wastes no time and orders his crew to attack, sink the Navy ships, and loot them as well. Meanwhile, the narrator mentions several other crimes committed by the Rox pirates during this period. Entire towns have been wiped off the map. They have repeatedly violated international laws without facing any consequences. Rox himself has 25 criminal records that were quietly erased. And although Gold D. Roger was also sailing the seas during this time, these years would later be remembered as the era of Rox. The scene shifts to a country in the New World called Anishi. The name itself means a destined meeting. Anishi is not affiliated with the world government, which means it has no protection from them. Because of this, the country becomes a target. World government ships arrive at Anishi and begin attacking the population. Civilians are captured and taken as slaves, meant to be sold to world nobles or other buyers. Some are even sent to work on massive government projects like the Bridge Kingdoms. The people of Anishi are completely defenseless. At this critical moment, King Harold arrives. He steps directly in the path of the world government forces and protects the country. The world government agents orders Harold to stay away from this. They tells them that if Harold intervenes here, his efforts with connecting with the world government might go in vain. But Harold remembers. Anishi had once helped Elbaf during a time of famine, and Harold has never forgotten that kindness. He attacks the world government ships, drives them away, and successfully saves the people of Anishi from slavery. However, this heroic act comes with serious consequences. The World Economic Newspaper reports on the incident, but the truth is completely twisted. The paper spreads propaganda. Harold is labeled a criminal who attacked world government forces without reason. The article ignores the slave raids entirely and paints Harold as a dangerous traitor. This false narrative spreads across the world. Years of work trying to prove that giants can be peaceful and trustworthy are undone overnight. Sometime later, Rox D. Zebek returns to Elbaf once again. He goes to Ida's bar. Inside, he finds Harold. Rox wastes no time. He points out the propaganda and fake news spread about Harold and tells him, "Look at this. You helped the world government and this is how they repaid you." He urges Harold to join him, saying he can't stand seeing the king of Elbaf bowing his head to the world government anymore. Rox says that if Harold and Elbaf stand with him, they could tear down the system that keeps lying and exploiting the world. Harold responds calmly. He says that Elbaf will become a member nation of the world government sooner or later. Rox mocks him, asking if shaving his head was supposed to show repentance, and what kind of culture taught him that bowing down would earn respect. Harold admits that even Garp once made fun of him for shaving his head. Ox scoffs and says Garp should have been a pirate long ago since he clearly hates the world government. Harold replies that while some people in the world government are corrupt, the Navy as a whole saves lives every single day. He believes the Marines genuinely protect civilians. Harold adds that Elbaf has already begun sending giants to work with the Navy, like John Giant, and believes more will follow and help people in the future. From Harold's point of view, he truly believes he is doing the right thing, but the irony is clear. The world government is the root of many of the world's problems, and working for it only strengthens the system that causes so much suffering. Rox can see this clearly. Harold cannot. Rox pleads with him again, but Harold refuses. Knowing Harold will never accept his offer, Rox jokes with Ida and tells her to talk some sense into him. Ida laughs and says that if Harold were her son, she would tell him to choose better friends. She says this clearly as a joke. Rox replies that it's not funny. Nearby, young Loki is silently listening. This isn't the first time Loki has overheard Rox speaking about the world, power, and freedom. Each time, those words sink deeper into his heart. The scene makes one thing painfully clear. If Harold had accepted Rox's offer, the world might already look very different. But history does not change course. Harold walks the path of peace. Rox walks the path of destruction, and Loki is caught between them, quietly shaping the future. At Marine headquarters, several high-ranking officers gather to discuss the growing threats in the world. Present in the room are Vice Admiral Garp, Sengoku, Tsuru, and Fleet Admiral Kong, the highest-ranking officer in the Navy at the time. Kong begins by informing them of a troubling order from the world government. The government has instructed the Navy not to allow giants to join their ranks. Their reasoning is simple but extreme. They believe giants are too dangerous and could become uncontrollable if they ever turned against the system. Garp immediately reacts. He asks Kong what he personally thinks about the giants of Elbaf. Kong answers honestly. He believes the Navy would greatly benefit from having giants on their side. Their strength would be a massive advantage, especially with the rise of powerful pirates like rocks. Sengoku supports this view. He states that King Harold is an honest man and that he is clearly trying to change Elbaf for the better. Tsuru then adds another concern. She mentions the growing rumors that Rox has been trying to recruit Harold into his crew. Kong acknowledges all of this. He says if Harold were to join Rox, they will be unstoppable. He says he knows Harold is a good man. He understands that giants fighting alongside the Navy would be a huge benefit. However, he explains that his hands are tied. Historically, giants have been viewed as violent and dangerous, and the world government refuses to take that risk. Garp grows angry. He argues that this exact mindset is the problem. Yes, giants were once feared, but that is precisely why the Navy should bring them to their side instead of pushing them away. Garp insists that Elbaf should be allowed to join the world government. Kong shuts this down, not because he disagrees, but because he lacks the authority. He explains that the decision is not his to make. The story then shifts to a shocking piece of news that spreads across the entire world. Shakuyaku has resigned as the captain of the Kuja pirates. The announcement hits hard, not just on Hachinosu, but everywhere. Shaki was an untouchable idol, admired across the seas. Many pirates had set out just to see her, and now they feel betrayed, calling it a scam and falling into despair. No one understands why she would step down. The scene moves to Big Mom and Gloriosa, who are relaxing while reading the news. Gloriosa is confused and frustrated. She wonders what Shaki is thinking. Gloriosa suspects that Shaki might be suffering from lovesickness, just like she once did. Big Mom casually comments on this, and Gloriosa sarcastically questions whether Big Mom even understands love, considering how casually she gives birth to children. Nearby, a young and confident Katakuri stands beside Big Mom, along with Oven, still small and innocent. Gloriosa angrily says she will never forgive Shaki if she has fallen for Roger. What she doesn't know yet is the truth. Shaki has actually fallen for Rayleigh, but no one realizes this at the moment. Not far from them, Whitebeard and Stussy are sitting together. Whitebeard is calm and relaxed, enjoying the moment. Stussy complains that all anyone talks about now is Shaki, this Shaki, that Shaki. She then teasingly asks if Whitebeard has ever fallen for anyone besides her. Whitebeard bluntly replies that he has never fallen for her at all. Stussy grabs his mustache in frustration and proudly declares that she is Miss Buckin' Stussy and could have any man she wants. When Whitebeard asks then what your problem is then, she answers honestly. Her problem is that she wants him. Whitebeard's gentle and carefree and simp-free nature is exactly what made her fall for him. Suddenly, a ship approaches the island. It belongs to the Kuja pirates. Everyone is shocked. The narrator calls it one of the most shocking days in history. The untouchable idol herself, the woman known as the world's desire, has arrived on Pirate Island, the lair of violent and untamed beasts. Shaki steps onto Hachinosu, and chaos immediately follows. Everyone is stunned. Everyone is simping. Shaki calmly announces that she plans to live here for a while and asks if the residents will protect her. The answer is instant and unanimous. Every pirate agrees without hesitation. Her plan is unclear, but no one dares to question her. She comments that the island smells awful, and immediately everyone rushes to clean it up just for her. Not long after, Rox and his crew arrive on the island. They ask what all the noise and excitement is about. Rox looks up and notices a bar. The sign reads, Shaki's Rip-Off Bar. Shaki has somehow opened a bar right in the middle of Pirate Island. Rox is confused and annoyed, wondering what is happening on his island. But the moment he sees Shaki, his anger disappears. Shaki smiles and says she was waiting for him. She calls Rox her first customer and invites him to come in for a drink. Even Rox isn't immune. He immediately falls for her and jokingly says that there is an angel among them. The narrator explains that Pirate Island has unknowingly gained an irreplaceable treasure. From that day on, Shaki becomes known as the Treasure of Hachinosu. The chapter ends with a crucial scene that sets up future events. The location shifts to Mary-Jouas, the Holy Land where the world government's highest authorities reside. Inside the Room of Authority, the 5 elders, gather to discuss the situation with Elbaf and the Rock's pirates. Saint Marcus Mars, one of the 5 elders, sends a direct message to King Harold of Elbaf. The content of this message is shocking and reveals the world government's true nature. The 5 elders make Harold an offer that they believe he cannot refuse. The offer is simple but terrible. If King Harold kills Rox D. Zebek, the world government will allow Elbaf to become a member nation, granting Harold everything he has been working toward for years, including recognition, protection, and legitimacy under the world government's authority, finally giving the giant kingdom a seat at the table of world politics. However, the price for this acceptance is that Harold must betray and murder Rox. The world government wants the giant king to become their assassin using Harold's greatest desire, his dream of bringing Elbaf into the international community, as leverage to force him into committing an act that goes against his principles. This offer puts Harold in an extremely difficult position. On one hand, killing Rox would achieve the goal that Harold has been pursuing for years, and Elbaf would finally receive the recognition and respect that Harold believes his people deserve. On the other hand, the offer requires Harold to abandon his principles and commit murder. More importantly, accepting this deal would mean becoming a tool of the world government, proving that they only value Elbaf for the military might that giants represent. We cut to the Oro Jackson sailing across the sea. Something feels off immediately. Roger is unusually quiet, not causing chaos like he normally does. He's just standing there, staring out at the ocean, clearly bothered by something. His crew tells him to go to the pirate island, saying that they know Shaki's location and should head out for her. But Roger means upset. Gabon notices it right away. He leans over to Rayleigh and asks what's going on. He mentions that Roger's been acting strange ever since Rayleigh and Roger talked in private earlier. Gabon asks Rayleigh straight up what that conversation was about. Rayleigh shrugs it off and says, "Nothing really happened," which is a lie. The story then flashes back to that private conversation. Roger and Rayleigh were talking away from the rest of the crew, completely alone. Roger brings up Shaki. He says he always thought Shaki had left the Kuja pirates because she was sick, and he admits he was worried about her too. Rayleigh explains that when Shaki actually left, she was ill at the time, and it felt awkward to bring it up to anyone. He wasn't planning to tell the crew about it at all. Then the real reason comes out. We see the letter. A letter Shaki gave Rayleigh when they met. And it is very clearly a love letter. It basically says, "Come and make me yours." Roger reads it and completely loses patience. He gets frustrated and asks if he's serious. He demands to know whether Rayleigh is even interested in her at all. Rayleigh admits that, yeah, he is interested, but he says he doesn't want anything holding him back. And the expression on Rayleigh's face when he says this is unintentionally hilarious. It's even funnier when you remember what Rayleigh is like in the future. Seeing him act awkward and conflicted about romance makes the whole scene hit even harder. That's the real reason Roger was upset. But it doesn't last long. Back in the present, Roger suddenly snaps out of it. The sadness disappears just as fast as it showed up. He starts laughing again, dancing around the deck like nothing ever happened. He announces to the crew that he's not admitting defeat over something like this. The mood instantly shifts. The crew relaxes. Everyone's relieved to have the old Roger back. Roger grins and reminds them of something important. They're pirates. And pirates don't wait around politely. If you want something, you take it. With that, Roger declares their next destination, Pirate Island, Hachinosu. The crew hesitates for a second. Someone points out that Pirate Island is currently under Rock's control. Roger doesn't care, and just like that, the Oro Jackson changes course. Gold D. Roger sets sail for Pirate Island. Or, as the crew sees it now, Simp D. Roger, going to war for love. The scene shifts to Mary Juaz. This flashback takes place 40 years before the present timeline. Saint Figaland Garling appears before the 5 elders. At this point in history, Garling is not yet a supreme commander of the Holy Knights. He is just a knight of God. Garling has just completed a mission for the world government and reports to the 5 elders about an assignment he was working on. during which he made an extraordinary discovery on a particular island that caught his attention immediately. Garling tells the five elders about this discovery with great enthusiasm, explaining that he has found something on an island that will surely delight Imusama beyond measure. Based on this discovery, Garling makes a proposal to the five elders, requesting that the next native hunting competition, a cruel sport that the celestial dragons participate, be held on this particular island at the location of his discovery. The island that Garling is referring to is God Valley, located in the West Blue. This proposal will set in motion the events that lead to the God Valley incident, one of the most significant events in the history of the One Piece world. The story returns to Pirate Island, Hachinosu, and the first thing we see is something completely ridiculous. There is a massive line of pirates stretching across the island. These pirates have come from all over the world for one reason only, to drink at Shaki's bar. Pirates from different seas, different crews, and even rival factions are standing patiently like idiots, waiting for their turn. Inside the bar, it becomes even funnier. Shaki openly disrespects the pirates waiting outside. She insults them and treats them like trash, and somehow, this only makes them fall for her even harder. The more she looks down on them, the more devoted they become. This shows just how much power Shaki holds over the pirate world. While this is going on, Shaki notices something strange about Rox. He doesn't feel the same as before. The usual simping is gone. Instead, Rox looks relaxed, cheerful, and oddly fulfilled, like someone who has found happiness. Shaki teases him about it. She jokes that he's acting different and asks if he's fallen for another woman, suggesting that he's clearly moved on from her. Lin immediately agrees, saying that Rox has indeed fallen for another woman. She isn't shown or named, but her existence is real. Rox has started a serious relationship with her. The bigger reveal is that woman is pregnant with Rox's child. That child will one day be born as Marshall D. Teach. Only after all of this does Roger arrive. Roger storms onto Pirate Island full of energy and joy. Loud as ever, he announces himself dramatically and calls out to Shaki, jokingly calling himself her lover boy. Total simp behavior. He tries to enter the bar, but Rox stops him immediately and says this is his island. Roger casually fires back that this is Shaki's place, not Rox, and reminds him that there's no fighting between customers. He tells Rox to stop yapping, calling him a porcupine. Rox asks how Roger even got in when there was such a huge line outside. Roger looks confused and says, "Line? What line?" Then he casually tells his crew to come in and grab a drink. Inside the bar, Whitebeard decides to leave. He doesn't like the noise, the chaos, or the childish energy filling the place. Shaki walks over to Roger, instantly making him simp again, and immediately asks about Rayleigh. Roger explains that he invited Rayleigh, but Rayleigh wasn't feeling well and stayed on the ship. At that moment, Gloriosa jumps in again, openly showing her affection for Roger. She clings to him, clearly still in love. Roger brushes her off and says he doesn't need a woman who throws hearts everywhere. But quietly, he adds that Shaki would be an exception. Gloriosa is left completely frustrated by this logic. Shaki, however, looks genuinely disappointed after hearing that Rayleigh didn't come. She quietly leaves the bar. Roger then asks if Whitebeard is around because he wanted to have a drink with him. Lin tells him Newgate already left. Roger sighs to himself, thinking that Rayleigh really should have come. With that, the pirates relax. The bar fills with laughter, drinking, and singing. Enemies sit together, weapons down, as they all sing Bink's Brew. Suddenly, Shaki collapses and passes out, revealing that this so-called love sickness is actually a real illness that affects the women of Amazon Lily. The narrator explains just how much power Shaki truly holds. Inside her bar, even sworn enemies stop fighting. Rivals respect her rules. Pirate Island, a place of endless violence, becomes peaceful for her. But out at sea, it's a different story. The narrative shifts to focus on King Harold's decision regarding the offer made by the five elders in the previous chapter, which promised to allow Elbaf to become a member nation of the world government if Harold killed Rox. Harold makes his choice, accepting the five elders' offer. Despite his friendship with Rox and his moral principles, Harold decides to pursue the assassination. agreeing to kill Rox in exchange for his nation's acceptance into the world government. A decision that weighs heavily on him, but which he believes is necessary for the future of his people. Harold travels to confront Rox in the underworld of Elbaf. The battle between Rox and Harold showcases the incredible scale and power of their confrontation in the underworld of Elbaf, with both warriors unleashing their full strength against each other. Loki and Hadruddin are hiding nearby, watching the battle unfold, but they quickly realize they made a mistake, as the shockwaves produced by the impacts of Rox and Harold's attacks are so powerful that the young giants cannot withstand them, forcing them to retreat to a safer distance. Rox is extremely angry with Harold, shouting at the giant king and telling him that he cannot believe that Harold has allowed the world government to manipulate him, accusing Harold of being used as a tool by the very organization he has been trying to negotiate with for years. Harold responds with his own frustration and inner conflict, admitting that he has experienced great doubts about this decision and questioning himself about whether achieving his goal is worth killing a friend. He reveals his internal struggle, torn between his duty to his nation and his personal relationship with Rox, showing that this decision has not been easy for him. Rox continues his accusations, telling Harold not to give him meaningless excuses and pointing out that he is doing exactly what the world government wants, regardless of his doubts or justifications. Rox calls Harold a fool, telling that he is being used and manipulated, and trying to make Harold see that the world government will never truly respect Elbaf or treat the giants as equals, only wanting to use Harold's strength as a weapon. Despite the fury of their battle, the narrator reveals an important truth. Neither Rox nor Harold actually wants to kill the other. Both warriors are holding back, using tremendously powerful attacks but not aiming for lethal strikes. This restraint reveals the depth of their complicated relationship. Despite being on opposite sides of this conflict and having philosophical differences, and despite Harold having agreed to assassinate Rox, there is still a bond between them, as they respect each other's strength and understand each other's motivations. After an intense and prolonged battle, the confrontation between Rox and Harold reaches its conclusion with a powerful strike. Rox sends Harold flying with a powerful strike and calls him a soft coward. Rox, genuinely mad at Harold, declares that this marks the end of their friendship, stating that the bond they shared is now broken beyond repair. Rox tells Harold that he will never invite him to join his crew again, recognizing that their paths are too different and that Harold's choice to accept the world government's offer has created an unbridgeable divide between them. Harold responds with his own declaration, reminding Rox that he is a king, and emphasizing that he would never risk the lives of his precious subjects by joining a villain who is destined to fail. Harold believes that Rox's ambitions will ultimately lead to his downfall, and he refuses to drag his people into a doomed rebellion against the world government. The narrator provides crucial context, stating that the bizarre friendship between Rox D. Zebek and King Harold has ended without a clear winner in combat, with their relationship now completely fallen apart. The narrator makes an ominous statement about the future. Rox and Harold will not meet again after this battle, going their separate ways, each pursuing their own vision for how to change the world, and will never cross paths again until the day of the God Valley incident, which will occur in the future timeline. After the battle and the breaking of the friendship between Rox and Harold, young Loki takes action based on his misunderstanding of the situation, going to the coast of Elbaf and waiting there for Rox to return, believing that Rox will come back to Elbaf eventually. Ida tries to help Loki understand reality, telling him many times that Rox will not return to Elbaf, and explaining that the friendship between his father Harold and Rox has ended, trying to make him understand that Rox has no reason to come back now that his relationship with Harold is broken. However, Loki refuses to listen to Ida's words. He continues to wait on the coast. Something slowly begins to change. As time passes and Loki keeps waiting, Ida continues to stay by his side. Gradually, the Loki starts to open his heart to her. Ida's constant presence and genuine care begin to affect him, when he eventually accepts her offer to drink some juice. The final scene of the chapter shifts to God Valley in the West Blue, 39 years before the present timeline. 1 year after the events with Roger arriving at the pirate island and the battle between Rox and Harold. The scene takes place in a peaceful village on God Valley, with villagers going about their daily lives in this quiet community. A red-haired woman walks through the village streets, pushing a baby stroller that contains twin babies, appearing to be a resident of God Valley. The villagers immediately notice the twins in the stroller, commenting on how cute the babies are and observing that both babies have inherited their mother's distinctive red hair. One of the villagers asks the woman the names of the twin babies. The woman speaks, revealing the names she has given to her children, Shanks and Shamrock. This revelation confirms that Shanks, who will grow up to become one of the 4 emperors, was born on God Valley. His twin brother Shamrock, who will later be known as Saint Figarland Shamrock and become part of the celestial dragon family, was also born here. The chapter deliberately keeps the identity of the red-haired woman mysterious, never revealing her face. This scene takes place 1 year before the God Valley incident. And the fact that Garling discovered something important on God Valley around this same time period suggests he may have already been visiting the island regularly. The scene shifts to a shocking news that spreads across the entire world. Shakuyaku has been kidnapped from Hachinosu. The announcement causes an uproar everywhere, as Shaki was considered untouchable on Pirate Island. The narrator reveals that Don Marlin, the gangster member of the Rocks Pirates who had been assigned to protect Shaki, was killed during the incident. This makes it clear that the kidnappers were extremely powerful and determined. There are strong hints that Ochoku was the traitor who helped facilitate the kidnapping. He is shown calmly counting money while everyone else is panicking. Elsewhere at sea, Roger becomes furious after reading the newspaper. He tears it apart in rage, angry at Rocks for failing to protect Shaki. Rayleigh is also genuinely saddened upon hearing the news. Chaos spreads across the seas as pirates everywhere react with outrage and disbelief at what has happened. The timeline shifts to 38 years before present, 1 year after Shaki was kidnapped from Hachinosu. The setting is God Valley, an island in the West Blue. Saint Figarland Garling arrives on God Valley and reunites with his wife. She is overjoyed to see him and says she always knew he would come back. She proudly shows him their children. Garling looks at them in surprise and asks if they are twins, commenting that they are adorable. His wife smiles and says that now they can finally live together on the island as a family. That is when Garling reveals his true nature. He coldly tells her that they will not be living on God Valley. He says the island will soon be erased. Garling explains that he has already arranged a special reward for a woman worthy of him, and all he has to do is win the upcoming competition. His wife is completely shocked and unable to understand what he is saying. Without hesitation, Garling suddenly stabs his own wife with his sword. She screams in pain and collapses as the babies begin crying. Garling shows no emotion. He calmly uses a transponder snail to give orders, instructing the Navy to begin their preparations. Soon after, Marine forces start moving toward the island. The Navy surrounds God Valley and begins landing troops. Civilians are confused and terrified, wondering why the Navy is there. A Navy captain orders his men to use tranquilizers on the civilians and to apprehend anyone who does not resist. Among the Marines is a young Monkey D. Dragon, who is still serving in the Navy at this point in his life. This moment connects directly to what Dragon later says in the future, that he knows the Navy well and never found true justice within it. Dragon questions the Navy captain, asking why civilians are being captured. The captain harshly shuts him down, telling him that this is part of his training and that he has no right to question orders as a rookie. Moments later, the Navy begins firing tranquilizers and rounding up the island's residents. Dragon is ordered to shoot as well, but he cannot bring himself to do it, even knowing the weapons will not kill anyone. He hesitates as civilians are taken away. Tear gas is also deployed across the island, worsening the chaos. Another Navy warship arrives, carrying slaves brought to God Valley for the upcoming hunting game. A Navy officer senses that something is wrong. Among the slaves, we see Ivankov, Ginny, Kuma, and some other slaves who appear completely hopeless. Ivankov and Ginny quietly begin planning an escape. The scene then shifts to Morgan, president of the World Economic Journal. Somehow, he has obtained explosive information. Shakuyaku is alive and being held on God Valley as part of a celestial dragon native hunting competition. Morgan spreads this news to Pirate Island and across the world. Chaos erupts on Hachinosu as pirates realize Shaki has been kidnapped but is still alive. Everyone becomes excited and furious at the same time. Whitebeard comments that he once thought the celestial dragon's hunting games were just rumors, but now he knows they are real. Lin Lin notices something important. One of the prizes of the competition is legendary devil fruits. She tells Kaido that this is his chance to obtain a powerful devil fruit, and that she can also secure strong fruits for her children. One crew member suggests that the whole thing might be a trap, but Rox shuts him down. He declares that he is going to God Valley and that anyone who wants to follow him can come, while those who hesitate can stay behind. At sea, the news also reaches the Roger pirates. Roger immediately decides to go to God Valley with his entire crew. Everyone is fired up. When Garp learns that Roger is heading to God Valley, he prepares to go as well. These legendary figures are all moving toward the same place, not to save civilians, but because powerful enemies and massive rewards await. On the open sea, the Rox pirates are suddenly stopped when Harold's ship blocks their path. Harold has been ordered to stop Rox from reaching God Valley. Rox confronts Harold and accuses him of being foolish, saying that working for the world government will never bring him true change. Rox asks whether Harold is really willing to kill his own friend, follow orders, and where his free will has gone. Knowing Harold won't understand in front of others, Rox asks to speak privately. Away from the crew, Rox and Harold shares their drink. Rox reveals something shocking. He tells Harold that Rox D. Zebek is not his real name. His true name is Davy D. Zebek, a member of a clan the world government has been trying to erase for generations. The Davy clan are descendants of the legendary pirate Davy D. Jones, who truly existed in the One Piece world. Many members of this clan are still alive today, hiding. Rox explains that 2 years ago he had a child. Fearing the world government, he sent his wife and child to the homeland of the Davy clan for protection. However, Garling discovered the truth. Harold realizes that Rox is not going to God Valley for glory or power, but to save his family. This completely changes Harold's view of Rox. The man the Navy calls the worst criminal in history is actually fighting for his loved ones. Rox explains that God Valley is his home. Harold asks why Rox would reveal such a weakness to him instead of telling his crew. Rox answers that Harold deserved to know the truth. Harold asks if the world government is luring Rox to God Valley. Rox replies that it's the opposite. They do not want him there because the celestial dragons will be present. Someone else is pulling the strings. But their biggest mistake was kidnapping Shaki, which has drawn pirates from all over the world to the island. Rox says that as long as his wife and child survive, nothing else matters. He admits that fortune has never favored him. He asks Harold one last time to join him, almost begging. Harold refuses, saying he would rather sink Rox than stand beside him. Enraged, Rox attacks Harold's ship, calls him a soft coward, and sails away. The native hunting competition begins. The residents of the island are captured and prepared as prey. The prizes are announced. Multiple legendary devil fruits, and the most beautiful woman in the world, Shakuyaku of Amazon Lily. The celestial dragons openly desire her. The winner may choose to make her a wife or a slave. Shaki is brought onto the stage in front of everyone. We see the gods' knights, including Garling. Summers declares he will make her his slave. Garling tells him to stop dreaming because Shaki will be his wife. Elsewhere, Dragon enters a house where an injured woman begs him to save her children and not let the world government or the celestial dragons take them. In another location, Rox's wife is shown, her face hidden, telling a frightened young Teach to stay calm and prepare to leave the island. Both of them are currently captured. Finally, the organizer of the God Valley incident announces an additional prize, a buccaneer boy, listed as a super rare rabbit. With that announcement, the long-lost Davy clan is exposed and the hunt officially begins. The Davy clan is brought on the stage at God Valley. The celestial dragons immediately react with hatred. Among the captives are young Teach and Rox's wife, along with several other members of the Davy clan. Some of them are unusually large in size, which only fuels the dragon's rage. The celestial dragons begin throwing weapons, knives, axes, anything they can grab, at the captives. They shout insults, calling the Davy clan a cursed bloodline that deserves extermination. Teach watches in pure terror, the same helpless fear seen years later in Doflamingo as a child. His mother desperately shields him with her body as weapons rain down. One celestial dragon suddenly shouts a critical question, asking whether the Davy clan members are also buccaneers. This directly links the Davy clan to the buccaneer race, the same race as Kuma, humanoids larger and far stronger than normal humans. The scene makes it painfully clear that the world government has hunted both the Davy clan and buccaneers for generations. Nearby, Garling is shown speaking with Saturn, who is also present on the island. Saturn compliments Garling on successfully uncovering the Davy clan. Garling responds casually, saying it was simply fate. Elsewhere on the island, Dragon encounters the red-haired woman, the mother of Shanks and Shamrock. She is dying from the wounds Garling inflicted earlier. With her last strength, she begs Dragon to protect her children and secure their future. Dragon is overwhelmed with guilt and pain. He says this is the only thing he can do and promises to save them. The woman most likely dies from her injuries soon after. The announcer then declares the rules of the native hunting competition. He reveals that there are 13 super rare rabbits worth 10,000 points each, along with 150 rare rabbits. With that announcement, all captives are released at once: slaves, prisoners, civilians, children, women, and the elderly. Tears fill their eyes as panic spreads. They are given 1 hour to run and hide, along with a false promise that anyone who survives for 3 weeks will be freed. When the hour ends, the hunt begins. The celestial dragons start killing mercilessly. Men, women, children, families, everyone is slaughtered without hesitation. The dragons kill for points, laughing and enjoying the cruelty. Transponder snails are placed all over the island, broadcasting the massacre live to Mary Joaz, where other celestial dragons watch and cheer. The Holy Knights also participate. Garling is shown killing dozens of people with a single slash. Gunko uses her arrows to wipe out multiple victims at once, turning the hunt into a twisted competition. It becomes clear that Garling is likely to win and claim Shaki, if the hunt continues. Another Holy Knight, Summers, notices a small child hiding in a tree. Instead of capturing them, he decides to play with his prey. This sadistic loser is wasting his time having fun. He doesn't care about the prizes at this point. Thorns erupt from the ground beneath the tree, spearing the area below. Smiling, Summers mockingly tells the child to jump, saying there's a soft cushion waiting underneath. To make it worse, he kicks the tree violently. The child loses his grip. As the child falls, his father, who had been hiding nearby, rushes out in desperation, unable to stay hidden any longer. Both of them most probably got cushioned. The scene shifts to Dragon, who witnesses the aftermath of the hunt. He sees bodies everywhere, people murdered for nothing. Guilt and anger consume him. Suddenly, Dragon notices a celestial dragon targeting Kuma, who is worth 10,000 points because of his buccaneer blood. Kuma is with Ginny, Ivankov, and other slaves. Dragon raises his weapon, knowing exactly what will happen next. At the marine ship, a captain asks if everyone has returned. Everyone is present, except Dragon. Dragon makes his decision. He fires a tranquilizer at the celestial dragon, saving Kuma. This is Dragon's complete break from the Marines. Attacking a celestial dragon is the greatest crime imaginable, but Dragon does it anyway. Kuma, the boy he saves here, will later become one of the Revolutionary Army's most important figures. Before the celestial dragons can react, their nightmare arrives. The Rock's pirates descend upon God Valley, along with several other pirate crews. Their arrival is overwhelming. The aura alone terrifies the celestial dragons. Whitebeard, Big Mom, Captain John, Kyo, Gloriosa, Stussy, Kaido, all of them are here, most of them with one goal: save Shaki. Rox orders his crew to split up and grab treasure, devil fruits, and anything valuable. Many of the crew openly simp for Shaki. Whitebeard jokingly says he's only worried about his friend Shaki, but if she falls in love with him, he wouldn't mind. Stussy is visibly shocked by this. Big Mom calls all of them fools, saying Shaki will never care about any of them. Kaido asks Lin Lin if she's serious about getting him a devil fruit. He acts like an impatient child. Lilin is like an older sister to him at this time. The Navy responds by firing cannons, But they do absolutely nothing. The Rock's pirates advance without slowing down. Celestial dragons panic and flee, blaming the Navy for their failure. Emergency alerts spread across the Marine network. Dragon hears the reports as chaos erupts. Using the distraction, Dragon escapes with Baby Shanks and Baby Shamrock. The twins calmly look at him as he carries them away. It's tragic, knowing they will be separated in the future. Dragon protects Shanks here, just as Shanks will one day protect Luffy. Then another massive presence arrives. The Roger pirates storm into God Valley, full of excitement. They're here for Shaki and treasure. Garling receives reports of their arrival and grows furious. The hunt is ruined. Now he must protect the celestial dragons instead of enjoying the game. The Holy Knights of God regroup to face the pirates. Some are familiar, others are new. The Navy clashes with the pirates, but they are completely outmatched. The Rock's pirates tear through Marine forces with ease. Then salvation arrives for the Navy. A cannonball crashes onto the battlefield with overwhelming force. Standing proudly on a warship is Monkey D. Garp, cannonball in hand, of course. The Marines erupt with joy, believing they are finally saved. Both Roger and Rox react with frustration. They know exactly what Garp is, a monster who will change everything. With Garp's arrival, all the greatest forces of the era stand on one island. And the God Valley incident truly begins. The narration opens by explaining that with so many legendary figures gathering in one place, each driven by their own goals, God Valley turns into a battlefield of inescapable nightmares. Chaos consumes the island as pirates clash with Marines and Garp's overwhelming presence shakes the land. Amid this destruction, civilians and slaves finally see an opening and begin running for their lives. The celestial dragons, however, instead of fleeing, they blame the Navy for allowing pirates onto the island and refuse to abandon the hunt. The Marines desperately try to escort them to evacuation tunnels, but the dragons insist on continuing the game. The motives are now clear. Roger is here for Shaki. Garp is here for Roger. And Rox is here solely for his wife and child. The scene shifts to Dragon, who is running through the chaos carrying Shanks and Baby Shamrock. He is injured, exhausted, and desperate to escape, believing this is the only way he can atone for his role in the hunt. As he searches for Marine ships to escape on, Dragon realizes too late that he has run in the wrong direction. Pirate ships and crews are approaching fast. As Dragon tries to change direction, a laser beam pierces straight through his chest, blowing him backward. The babies fall from his arms. Dragon collapses. The attacker reveals herself as Saint Maffy, one of the Knights of God from the Satchel family. She contacts someone through a transponder snail, explaining that Maffy saved her from Garling's wrath. Maffy mocks the idea that Garling even has children, then picks up Baby Shamrock, assuming Dragon is about to die. Dragon, screaming in pain, still tries to crawl forward to save them. When he sees a baby being taken, he loses hope entirely, believing he deserves to die for failing. But just as Maffy turns away, she is cut clean in half. The battlefield falls silent for a moment as Whitebeard and Big Mom step forward, their presence overwhelming. Big Mom angrily shouts at Whitebeard, accusing him of nearly killing her with that attack. Dragon watches in complete awe as these monsters of the sea stand before him. Moments later, Shiki also storms in, furious at Whitebeard for almost cutting him down as well. Meanwhile, Kaido behaves like an impatient child, repeatedly asking Big Mom whether they will find a devil fruit, showing how young and immature he still is. A group of weak, fame-hungry pirates suddenly rushes in, believing they can defeat the Rock's pirates and become legends. They are instantly wiped out. The difference in power is absolute. Amid the chaos, Maffy is both terrified and confused by what is happening on the island. Even as a Knight of God, she is not prepared for this level of destruction. Although she does not die from the attack, one detail immediately stands out. She is holding only one baby, and that baby is crying. Nearby, Baby Shanks lies on the ground, unconscious, a bump visible on his head. Dragon sees this and freezes for a moment. The realization hits him. Shanks is still alive. Shock turns into overwhelming relief. He knows he has lost one child, but he accepts the painful truth. Saving even one life is better than saving none. At the same time, Garp arrives at chaos. He leaps into the battlefield, laughing, calling it a perfect fishing spot, and attacks the Rock's pirates with a fist overflowing with Conqueror's haki. What happens next is shocking. Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido all retreat from Garp. Big Mom warns Kaido that fighting Garp would take too long and isn't worth it. A single man, unarmed, has forced 3 future emperors to back off. Dragon watches in disbelief, realizing his own father has arrived on the island. As they retreat, Lin Lin launches a massive long-range attack using Zeus and Prometheus, a devastating blast of fire. Kuma, Ivankov, and the other slaves watch in fear, but Garp simply mocks Lin Lin, saying the attack is too weak. Lilin grows furious. During the distraction, another Knight of God executes escaping civilians and slaves from behind, mowing them down as they flee. A Navy officer reports the situation. Roger's crew is approaching from the northwest, while the Rock's pirates are advancing from the southeast. The celestial dragons are trapped in between, unable to escape. Roger charges forward, crushing everything in his path. The scene cuts to Shaki's room where she is being held captive. Summers enters. Summers immediately realizes all the pirates are here to save her, and that Shaki knows this very well. She understands her value. Summers slaps her, saying he prefers naive women. When Shaki tries to fight back, he grabs her leg and impales it with his thorn weapon. She collapses in pain. Summers declares that since Garling will likely win the competition, there's no way Shaki will ever be his. If he can't have her, no one will. He prepares to kill her, savoring the moment. Outside, Roger's crew and Rock's crew collide, fighting each other while racing toward Shaki. Roger realizes he can't reach her in time. Then Roger sends out his strongest weapon, Silver's Rayleigh. A terrifying aura fills the air. Rayleigh appears. With a single overwhelming strike, Rayleigh sends Summers flying, completely crushing him. Rayleigh turns to Shaki and apologizes for arriving too late. He mentions the love letter she once gave him and tells her that he's here to take her away. Shaki breaks down in tears, admitting how terrified she was. Rayleigh cries as well, apologizing for everything she had to endure. Meanwhile, Roger and Gaban shout at them to stop the romance and move already. Roger declares that the main mission is complete. They've rescued Shaki. They'll grab some treasure. And then they're leaving God Valley. But the battle is far from over. The chapter begins with Navy reports confirming that Xebec and St. Figureland Garling are locked in combat in the northwest of God Valley. Marine Command immediately orders reinforcements to be sent to support Garling and eliminate Rocks. The battlefield positions are clearly established. Roger is moving through the center of the island, while Rocks and Garling are fighting in the northwest. Nearby them, the main treasure vault is located. Roger's crew escorts Rayleigh as he carries Shaki in his arms, cutting through both pirates and Marines. Several opportunistic pirates attempt to attack Rayleigh in order to steal Shaki, but they are swiftly destroyed, either by the Roger pirates or even by members of the Rocks pirates themselves. Shiki, in particular, steps in, openly warning the attackers that if they interfere, Shaki might get hurt. He makes it clear that he genuinely cares about her safety. Shaki, now finally safe, feels relieved and happy that she survived, and that Rayleigh was the one who came for her. Rayleigh tells her that there is something he wants to say. Shaki stops him and replies that he doesn't need to say anything. She already knows. The scene shifts to the primary treasure area, where legendary devil fruits are stored. Inside the room, Ivankov and Kuma are shown holding devil fruits. Kuma has his future Paw fruit, while Ivankov is holding the fish fruit, model Azure Dragon, Kaido's future devil fruit. Before Ivankov can eat it, Big Mom crashes into the room, snatches the devil fruit, and slams Ivankov into the wall. Kuma watches in complete shock. Before Big Mom can take his fruit as well, Kuma makes a split-second decision and eats it. Big Mom immediately turns furious. Pirates fight each other, Marines lose control, and destruction spreads everywhere. The Navy desperately asks Garp for orders. Garp, completely confused by what is unfolding, asks Sengoku if he knew about any of this. Sengoku admits that there was once a man who spoke about similar rumors, but he mysteriously vanished from the Navy soon after. Garp explodes in anger, realizing this is all real. He isn't dreaming. The scene cuts back to the northwest. Rox is fighting Garling, along with another holy knight and monstrous, demon-like creatures, similar to the giants seen in Elbaf when Emu uses domination powers. Rox is carrying his wife Eris and their child Teach on his shoulders. He has finally found them. However, he is forced to keep running. The Knights of God do not die, no matter how many times he strikes them. Rox wonders what kind of power this is, admitting that even he doesn't fully understand Imu's abilities. Garling is furious, but at the same time, he can't help admiring Rox's strength. Rox has damaged him badly, slowing Garling's regeneration. Garling bitterly remarks that even if the game is ruined, killing members of the Davy clan would still make it worthwhile. Eris tells Rox to put her down. She explains that he cannot fight properly while carrying them. Rox refuses, terrified for his family, saying that if the government captures Eris and Teach, death would be kinder than what awaits them. Eris jumps down anyway. She tells Rox that she understands the fate of the Davy clan and that she is not a helpless woman. She says that if she were weak, Rox would have never fallen in love with her. Eris assures Rox that if the government captures them, she will kill Teach and herself before allowing that fate. If they survive, she tells Rox to meet her in Leloucha. She leaves with Teach. Garling arrives just as they escape. Seeing Rox alone, Garling smiles, excited that they can finally fight without distractions. Rox, now genuinely enraged, swings his katana and prepares for battle. Teach looks back one last time, terrified by the chaos around him. The scene returns to the treasure vault. Big Mom celebrates, believing she has secured a powerful devil fruit and plans to give it to Katakuri. But suddenly, a shadow appears. Kaido strikes Big Mom with a powerful blow, steals the devil fruit the moment it's within reach, and eats it instantly. He grins as his body begins to transform. Big Mom screams in rage and attacks him. The chapter draws a parallel. Dragon and Eris are both running in different directions, each protecting a child. Teach with Eris, Shanks with Dragon. Both children will one day stand against the world government. At a secondary treasure site, Roger's crew arrives and finds massive amounts of gold and devil fruits. The pirates are thrilled, but soon, rival pirates and the Navy also arrive. The situation spirals further out of control. Slaves beg the Navy for rescue. They are coldly told that God Valley is not affiliated with the world government and no help will be given. Kuma begins rescuing people, teleporting them away one by one. From a high cliff, Saturn calmly observes the chaos. A voice asks him if Rox is dead yet. It is Emu. Saturn replies that the chaos on the island is unexpected, and that such destruction may give birth to something entirely new. As he speaks, a massive silhouette of dragon rising into the sky is shown. Emu responds coldly, "That must not happen." Suddenly, an overwhelming dark conqueror's haki floods the entire island. It is so alien and terrifying that Rox, Roger, and Garp all stop at once. A monstrous figure appears. It is Saturn, but no longer himself. Emu has taken control of his body. Meanwhile, Rox has already defeated 2 Knights of God and the demonic creatures aiding them. Garling lies utterly destroyed, his body shattered. His regeneration has gone really slow. The attacks has slowed down his regeneration. Rox has annihilated the world government's strongest security force. As with Teach, Rox's greatest victories are never fully shown, only the aftermath. All eyes turn toward the new entity. Rox asks Whitebeard if he will help him. Whitebeard replies calmly that he's got his back. They've been drinking together long enough. Kaido, thrilled by his new power, excitedly shows off his dragon form like a child. Whitebeard and Kaido both stand beside Rox, ready to support him. Whitebeard asks the most important question: what is that thing? The answer is, it is Saturn, but also not Saturn. Emu is controlling him. A fusion of ruler and vessel. Pirates and Marines alike flee in terror. Garp stares in disbelief, wondering if this is even real. Roger grins, excited, saying that a truly great adventure has begun. Rox answers quietly. They are fighting the world itself. Imu is the world. This also raises question. When Loki announced that he is the sun god and he's going to destroy the world, did he meant the world by Imu? The chapter opens with God Valley completely losing control. Imu, now fully possessing Saturn's form, attacks the battlefield without hesitation or discrimination. Marines, pirates, allies, enemies, none of it matters. In Imu's eyes, everyone present is something that needs to be erased. Saturn's body has grown to a massive, unnatural size, towering over the island. His legs begin to twist and split apart, detaching from his body and turning into enormous black claws made of dark matter. These claws move on their own, ripping through the battlefield independently. Marines who were fighting the Rocks pirates moments ago are suddenly torn apart by attacks from their own side. Pirate crews are wiped out just as brutally. Entire groups vanish in seconds. It becomes clear very quickly that this thing isn't fighting for anyone. Saturn's eyes are completely empty. There is nothing left of him. His body is being used like a puppet. Through the chaos, Rocks pushes forward and stands directly in front of Imu. He looks up at the massive form without hesitation and openly mocks the ruler of the world, calling him nothing more than a king of rats hiding above everyone else. Rocks demands to know if Imu came all this way just to kill him. Imu responds by calling Rocks by another name, Davy Jones. Imu believes Rocks is Davy D. Jones, the legendary figure from 800 years ago who openly opposed the world government. Rocks immediately shuts that down. He says he is not Davy Jones, that he never met him, and that Imu is confusing him with someone else. But then Rocks says something that makes Imu react instantly. He says that promises are meant to be kept. That single line changes everything. Imu's tone shifts. The calm disappears. Imu declares that this is exactly why Rocks, the Davy clan, and anyone connected to that bloodline must be erased completely. The world Imu is building is not finished yet, and the existence of the Davy bloodline threatens it. Without warning, Imu attacks, using Saturn's massive body to strike at Rocks directly. Rocks doesn't hesitate. He launches himself forward, his blade tearing straight through the dark matter. Saturn's incoming leg attack is cut cleanly in half. At the same time, Garp arrives at the edge of the battlefield and immediately understands how serious this situation is. Marines rush toward Garp and physically try to restrain him. They grab his arms, shouting that he cannot interfere, reminding him that Saturn is one of 5 elders. To attack him would be treason beyond anything imaginable. Garp just watches. He's watching one of the 5 elders looking like a total monster for the first time. He expected no less from the 5 elders. If this is what the 5 elders are, he isn't going to help him. He never has. Elsewhere on the island, the chaos hasn't stopped. The Roger pirates and the Rocks pirates are still clashing when Captain John finally makes his move. With everyone distracted by Imu and Rocks, he activates his devil fruit, the magnet fruit, the same power that will later belong to Kid. Metal all across God Valley begins flying toward him. Weapons, treasure, armor, even parts of buildings are ripped from the ground as John pulls everything toward himself using his technique, Big Eater. Gaban immediately warns the Roger pirates about Captain John's devil fruit powers. Even Roger feels the pull, but he ignores it completely and keeps running toward the battle between Rocks and Imu. And Zui, one of the Rocks pirates, sees exactly what Captain John is doing. Realizing John is betraying the crew, Ganzui attacks him using the bomb fruit, the same devil fruit that will later belong to Mr. 5. Ganzui launches Sky Snake Red Cannon, and the explosion slams directly into Captain John. The magnetic pull collapses instantly, treasure and metal raining down across the battlefield as John is taken out by his own crewmate. During all of this, Dragon is still carrying Baby Shanks. When the magnetic force hits, Dragon's weapon is ripped from his hands, throwing him off balance. He crashes to the ground and loses consciousness. Shanks is thrown free and lands nearby. Unhurt, he starts crawling, drawn toward an open treasure chest overflowing with gold and jewels. Without understanding any of it, Shanks crawls inside and hides among the treasure. Back at the main battlefield, Rocks is struggling. Even Whitebeard and Kaido can tell something is wrong. Imu is taking hits that shouldn't be survivable. Kaido offers to jump in, but Rox warns him not to get close yet. Big Mom arrives, still furious about Kaido stealing the dragon fruit, mocking him for it even now. But both of them quickly realize that none of that matters. Imu is the real threat. Roger finally reaches the battlefield, weapon ready, and decides right there that Imu is his target. Garp breaks free from the Marines holding him down and makes his choice as well. For the first and only time, 6 monsters stand on the same side. Garp, Roger, Rox, Whitebeard, Kaido, and Lin Lin all attack together. Their strongest techniques collide at once, each one coated in Supreme King Haki. The impact is overwhelming. The island shakes, the air tears apart. Imu's body is ripped to pieces. For a moment, it looks like it worked. Garp proudly claims his punch did the job. Roger fires back that it was clearly his attack. But the moment doesn't last. Imu's body reforms, dark matter pulling itself back together like nothing happened. Imu releases a massive wave of Conqueror's Haki that sweeps across the island, knocking out weaker fighters instantly. Imu speaks while dismembered, calmly pointing out that Rox's wife and son are running through the forest. It's not just information. It's a threat. Rox loses control and attacks even harder. That's when Imu decides to end it. Domi Reverie activates, the same ability used on the giants of Elbaf. Dark energy surrounds Rox as the transformation begins. His body changes against his will. Imu declares that Rox will be the one to erase his own bloodline. The transformation completes. Rox becomes a demon, just like the others created through Domi Reverie. The truth becomes clear. The other Davy clan member on the island were also turned into monsters using this same power. Imu commands the transformed Rox to hunt down Eris and young Teach. Everyone watching are stunned. Something is happening to Rox, and the fact that even after these many attacks, Imu is still alive. The power Imu possesses is crazy. It's like even after all these powerhouses, they aren't afraid of death at all. And more than that, they use a technique which is so powerful and doesn't even have a drawback. It will be fascinating to see how Roger and Garp will kill this monster Rox and how Luffy will defeat Imu. This powers makes it clear there is going to be a massive war. Oda once mentioned that there is going to be incoming war which is going to make Marineford look like nothing. Imu forces the dark arms deeper into Rox's body, accelerating Domi Reverie. From the outside, it looks like the transformation should already be finished. Rox's bones are reshaping, his body is growing larger, his strength is skyrocketing. Everything about it says this should be over. But it isn't. Rox is still conscious. Imu notices too. Rox's will hasn't broken yet. Rox mocks Imu for exactly that. He tells them not to underestimate human will, and then he drops the line that changes the entire meaning of this fight. Rox states that Davy Jones was once the king of the world. That one statement flips the entire story on its head. If that's true, then the will of D didn't exist under Imu. It existed before them, which means Imu didn't create the world's order. They replaced it. The world government isn't the original authority. It's a regime built on erasing what came before. Imu snaps back instantly, furious. Davy Jones was never a king, not for a moment. And this has nothing to do with Rox. But the reaction gives everything away. Rox presses harder. If Davy Jones meant nothing, then why wipe out the Davy clan so completely? Why erase anyone connected to the D initial? Why go this far with Rox himself? The answer is obvious. Because Imu is terrified that the Davy clan might rise again and fulfill their promise, and Teach is still alive. As long as Teach survives, the Davy bloodline isn't gone. Which means the promise isn't gone either. In future, Teach will one day follow the same path. History is going to repeat itself. Well, Teach isn't going to be just like Rox. He's going to be a complete trash betraying his own crew, but that's probably irrelevant to the promise of the clan. So Blackbeard is most probably working to be the king of the world following his father's will, which includes defeating the world government. A lot of people think he might team up with Luffy. Personally, that's not possible. Blackbeard was the reason Ace died. Luffy is never going to team up with Blackbeard. Blackbeard also isn't going to team up with him. His current goal is probably to acquire the One Piece, become powerful, and overthrow the world government afterwards. Let's quit the yapping. Back to the story, Rox brings up Joy Boy, directly placing him alongside Davy Jones. Two figures erased from history. Two enemies of the world. Two people Emu clearly remembers. This time, Emu's composure breaks. It's obvious now, Emu has existed since their era. Emu confirms that Joy Boy and Davy Jones will never return, that they were handled personally once already, and Emu will make sure that no one like them ever appears again. That confirms something huge. They were probably killed. And Emu is still here. Rox laughs through the pain. Davy D. Zebek carrying the will of Davy D. Jones, passing it to his son, Teach. Monkey D. Luffy carrying the will of D and Joy Boy. Two separate bloodlines. Two promises still alive. Emu changes tactics. They shift focus to Elbaf. King Harold will be subjugated next. He's easy to control. Giants make perfect soldiers. Massive, long-lived, powerful, and once stripped of free will, unstoppable. That's where Rox snaps. He warns Emu to stay away from Harold. The giants want peace. Harold wants peace. His methods are flawed, but he isn't a tyrant. The irony is brutal. Rox is defending someone else's people while his own family is being erased. Emu doesn't care. To them, Harold is just another useful puppet. An opportunity that won't come twice. And then Emu says it clearly. Rox is no different. Domi Reverie accelerates. Rox's body expands violently. His frame grows massive. His teeth warp and grows out. His eyes lose focus. The process finishes. Emu gives the command. Erase the Davy clan. Erase everyone on the island. Rox collapses. Then he stands back up, fully transformed. At this point, a pattern becomes clear. Domi Reverie probably only works on someone in their homeland. The giants were reversed in Elbaf, the Davy clan here on God Valley. Even the name fits. Domi Reverie, a Latin word that translates to bring back home, or returns home. God Valley is Zebek's home, and so does the same for other Davy clan members who were transformed. Rox now towers over everyone. Immortal. Stronger. Completely out of his own control. He tells his crew to move away. Kaido steps in first, confused and hesitant. Rox doesn't slow down. He grabs Kaido and slams him into the ground like it's nothing. Kaido is instantly out of the fight. Big Mom charges next, demanding to know why Rox is turning on his own people. Rox hits her before she can even react. She's thrown far across the battlefield and removed from the fight entirely. Only Whitebeard remains. Whitebeard doesn't draw his weapon. He plants his feet and blocks Rox head-on with his bare hands. The impact is insane. Half the island tears apart and collapses into the sea. Whitebeard holds his ground. In his prime, he's an absolute monster. Rox ignores him. His target is his wife and child. The island collapses into chaos. Battleships are ordered to keep their distance. Celestial Dragons panics. The Navy rushes them off the island and prepares to abandon God Valley. Roger's crew looks back, worried about him. Dragon, elsewhere, is furious and broken. He believes he failed. Shanks is gone. What Dragon doesn't know is that Shanks crawled into a treasure chest earlier. That chest is now in the Roger pirates' possession, which explains everything later. Kuma keeps rescuing people non-stop, even as Ivankov warns him he's pushing himself too far. Shiki flies off carrying a massive treasure chest, abandoning everyone without hesitation. Rox finally reaches Eris and Teach. Eris understands immediately. Rox has lost because this was too early. He wasn't ready to fight Emu. This was never a fair battle. Rox sacrificed himself so they could live. She grabs Teach and runs. Rox chases them. Navy cannon fire rains down. Cannonballs land directly in front of Eris and Teach. Suddenly, death is seconds away. Rox raises his katana to finish it. Kuma launches himself in. At the last second, Kuma uses his power on Eris and Teach, sending them away from God Valley to a random location. They disappear, The Davy bloodline survives. Kuma is left behind as the cannon fire explodes. Smoke and fire cover everything. We don't see what happens next, but we know Kuma survives. The only explanation is that he used his power on himself to escape. Emu watches from a distance and assumes Eris and Teach are dead. With the mission complete, Emu orders Rox to destroy the island and kill everyone remaining. He asks how many people are still on the island. Roger checks in with his crew and tells them to leave without him if needed. Rox begins slaughtering everything left on God Valley. No one can stop him. Until Roger and Garp step in together. They face Rox head-on. Emu watches from afar. Then something impossible happens. Roger hears a voice. Garp hears it too. It's Rox. Not out loud. Inside their heads. The voice of all things. Rox is still conscious inside the monster. He can't control his body, but his mind is still there. Tears run down his face as he begs them to kill him. He knows he can't stop himself. He knows he'll kill his family if he reaches them again. His body moves on Emu's command. His mind is screaming for it to end. And this is where the God Valley incident truly begins. Back on the battlefield, Garp asks Roger if he's hearing Xebec's voice too. Roger confirms it. Both of them heard Rock's plea inside their heads. They understand now that the tears on Rock's face don't match the monster he's become. His body is rampaging, but his mind is still trapped inside, suffering. Ending this fight is the only way to stop him. They attack together. Roger swings his sword with full force, the blade coated in both armament and supreme king haki. Garp charges in at the same time, fists hardened with the same overwhelming power. Demon Rox answers with his own haki-infused strikes. The clash is brutal, but it becomes clear almost instantly their attacks aren't enough. Rox deflects and nullifies them like it's nothing. Then he counterattacks. One strike. Both Roger and Garp are hit at the same time and launched straight into the mountains. Elsewhere, the island completely falls apart. Chaos everywhere. One of Rock's crewmates, Kyo, shouts for everyone to take Xebec's ship and get out. Shiki openly betrays the crew, laughing as he declares that this is the end of the Rock's pirates. Other pirates don't even argue. They just run. The Navy and Roger's crew panic, trying to reach Garp and Roger through transponder snails. Both of them respond calmly. They say they'll be back. Right now, running isn't an option. They've got a bigger problem to deal with. Roger and Garp remove their cloaks, and when these two remove the drip, you know the real fight is about to start. Garp admits his original plan was to capture both Roger and Rox. Roger casually admits that he came here to rescue Shaki and grab the legendary devil fruits. Then Roger asks Garp to team up just this once. Garp doesn't like the idea of working with a pirate, but he agrees. He can't let Rox escape like this. Rox charges again. Garp reacts instantly, dodging, slipping behind him, grabbing his legs and hurling him into the mountain with pure brute force. Garp asks Roger if there's any way to break the curse. Roger answers by leaping into the air and bringing down a massive Supreme King Haki charge strike, while Rox is still recovering. Roger's crew feels it from miles away. The Haki alone tells them this isn't a normal fight. Nearby, Gloriosa appears with nowhere left to go. The Rock's pirates abandoned her. She walks up to the biggest simp on Roger's crew, Gaban, and straight up asks if they've got room for one more. Elsewhere, Lin confronts Kaido, telling him he owes her for that devil fruit for the rest of his life. Kaido fires back instantly. Finders keepers. She lost. He declares that he's forming his own crew now, one ruled entirely by violence. Lin laughs it off, saying Kaido thinks he's hot stuff just because he ate a strong fruit. She tells him he can dream all he wants, but he'll never defeat her. Kaido answers with the same energy, saying he'll be waiting for the day he crushes her. Back at the battlefield, Rox blocks Roger's critical strike and grabs him barehanded, throwing him into the ground hard. Meanwhile, as Whitebeard leaves the battlefield, a man stops him and asks if Whitebeard was the one who destroyed that mountain. He introduces himself as Polo Graham, captain of the Polo Pirates, and a huge fan. He offers Whitebeard a place on his ship, saying there's no reason to wander alone. The man looks suspiciously like Marco, heavily implying he's Marco's father. Elsewhere, Stussy is seen running off with Ganzui, arms full of treasure. She asks him what happened to Whitebeard. Ganzui honestly has no idea. On a Navy warship, Dragon snaps. He aims his weapon at a Navy commander. The officer demands to know what Dragon thinks he's doing. Dragon fires back, asking what the Navy thinks it's doing. He orders all innocent civilians to be brought onto the ship immediately. Anyone who tries to stop him will be executed on the spot. Meanwhile, Roger's crew reaches their ship, but Rayleigh and Gabon don't board. They turn around and sprint back toward the island, telling the others to wait. They're not leaving their captain behind. Finally, a world government ship pulls away from God Valley. Imu, still possessing Saturn's body, stands aboard it. With a cold, emotionless command, Imu orders the erasure of God Valley. The island, the event, and everyone connected to it are to be wiped from history completely. Chaos engulfs the island from the battle. The narrator reveals the truth behind the incident. The God Valley incident is classified as an S-level top-secret event. Special hazard pay is issued to Naval Base G11. Cipher Paul No. 6 is ordered to erase all registries related to the human hunting competition. The event location, God Valley Island, is completely wiped from official records. Meanwhile, the battle against Roger and Garp versus Rox is so intense that it alone is about to destroy the whole damn island. But one thing is painfully clear. Unlike Garp and Roger, who are battered, bleeding, and running on fumes, Rox isn't slowing down at all. No injuries, no exhaustion. On top of that, he's immortal and has even more strength than he had before. He was already good, and now he's literally using hacks. Roger asks Garp if he really knew about that black monster, Emu, the one calling themselves the good guys, and the fact that the Navy ultimately works for them. Garp admits he can't believe it either. Roger straight up tells him that this is exactly why Garp should quit the Navy and join him. Garp immediately shuts that down and tells Roger not to be an idiot. He says that if he quits, then who's going to look out for the rank-and-file soldiers? The regular people stuck at the bottom. And honestly, if he actually did, it would have been better for everyone. You don't fix a rotten system from the bottom. That's just not how it works, and the story literally proves it. Garp spends his entire life trying to fix the Navy from inside, and accomplishes nothing when it comes to changing the world government itself. His indirect actions matter, sure. Luffy and Dragon both end up fighting the world government, but even after realizing there's no real justice in the Navy, Garp still forces Luffy to become a Marine, which is honestly insane. Dragon, of all people, ends up being the better father here. Even though he wasn't around, he helped Luffy when it mattered and let him choose his own path. Garp is a good man, but his choices are complicated. He hates the world government, yet keeps working for it. With the power he had, he could have helped far more people than he did. Roger changes the subject and asks Garp if this whole thing comes down to critical mass. Garp asks what he means by that, and Roger explains that between Armament Haki and Supreme King Haki, their attacks should have worked. There's no way they shouldn't have. Garp points out the problem. Rox was using Supreme King Haki too, not just offensively, but defensively. His Haki canceled theirs out. That's a huge reveal. We've never been told before that Supreme King Haki can be used like armor. Turns out only the absolute top tiers can do this, using Conqueror's Haki the same way armament works, except far stronger. Garp says it straight. They can't hurt Rox unless their Supreme King Haki overwhelms his. Roger agrees and adds that if this fight drags on, they'll lose. Rox won't. They realize the only option left is one final attack. A full critical mass release of Supreme King Haki, everything they have, all at once. The drawback is obvious. After this, they won't be able to move. They might even die. Roger says it plainly. If they land this, all three of them go down. If they miss, they die, and Rox stays like this forever. Garp looks at Rox and understands something else. He doesn't know how to save him. He doesn't know how to console him, but he can see it clearly now. Rox is crying. Tears cover his face. He's lost his family, his dream, his promise. He's slaughtered people against his will, defeated by Emu and still forced to obey. This isn't a monster. This is a broken man. Rox wasn't evil. Roger tells Rox not to cry, because if he does, Roger won't be able to swing. Then they move. Roger raises his sword. Garp clenches his fist. Roger unleashes God of Fire, Ace. Garp follows with Fist Infinitum Expulsion. These aren't normal attacks. They're never seen again in the story for a reason. They burn every last ounce of Supreme King Haki the users have. These techniques exist for one purpose only, to destroy someone trapped in Domi Reverie. Rock's body is completely obliterated. The narrator states that the world government tried to erase everything that happened at God Valley. Records destroyed, names wiped, details buried. But the fall of Rox D. Zebek and the collapse of his lawless crew sent shockwaves across the world that couldn't be hidden. God Valley is gone. The mountain that remained is gone too. Nothing is left. And the world is never the same again. The devastating clash finally knocks both Roger and Garp completely unconscious. Their bodies crash into the ground, unmoving. Rain begins to fall over God Valley, washing away blood and debris as the battlefield goes quiet for the first time. For a moment, everything feels over. But suddenly, Rox stirs. Against all odds, he wakes up. The demonic curse is gone. The weight crushing his mind is lifted. He's back in his own body, barely alive, barely able to move, but conscious. For a split second, he thinks he might actually leave this island alive. Then he feels it, 3 presences approaching. The Holy Knights finally arrive. Garling, Summers, Maffey. These trash losers can't let this opportunity to go away. Rox understands immediately. There's no escape. He looks at Roger and Garp lying unconscious nearby. Using his inside voice, he tells them to run. He tells them there's no point sticking around him any longer. But Rox doesn't know that they can't move either. Then, before the end, he says one last thing. He thanks them. He tells them he's glad they stopped him. Glad they didn't hesitate. Glad they didn't let him become something worse. Garling doesn't hesitate either. Rox is already injured, already helpless, barely holding on. Garling steps in. He takes advantage of the moment and drives his blade straight into Rox, killing him on the spot. And this is the man history remembers as the champion of God Valley. Supreme Commander of the Holy Knights? Yeah, sure. I had high hopes for Garling, the one who earned that title through sheer strength. Someone insane, unstoppable, worthy of the name. Instead, he slaughtered his own wife, killed civilians for points, and finished off an already defeated Rox. That's it. Congratulations, man. You stabbed a wounded opponent who couldn't even fight back. Real legendary stuff. At this point, even Buggy could have done the same thing. Pure loser. Minus 5,000 aura. The scene shifts to Rayleigh and Gavin, who are seen escaping the island, carrying the unconscious bodies of Roger and Garp. As they retreat, Roger weakly asks what happened to Rox. Rayleigh answers simply, "The Holy Knights killed him." But one thing remains unsettling. Rox is never shown dying on screen in a definitive way, and unlike most members of the D-Clan, Rox doesn't die smiling. There's no grin, no laughter in the face of death, just exhaustion, relief, and acceptance. As the survivors flee, God Valley begins to collapse. The island sinks, just like Lulusia will years later. A massive void opens where land once stood. Warship cannons fire relentlessly, destroying any remaining fragments of the island to ensure nothing survives. Nothing is left behind. No evidence. No witnesses. A massive lightning bolt splits the sky. This isn't an ending. It's a beginning. The birth of new legends. Everyone who survived God Valley will go on to shape the future. Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Dragon, Shanks, Kuma, Teach. Every single one of them will play a role in the coming war against the world government. And with that, the God Valley flashback finally comes to an end. And that covers the entire God Valley flashback from start to finish. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Part 3 of the entire Elbaf explanation is coming as soon as possible, so stay tuned. And of course, thanks for watching.